Chapter 13:21. She only swiftly covered her body with layer after layer of water spirit shields. When 4 layers of water spirit shields covered her body, a layer of agitation appeared in Fanshoa's eyes. Her body is very strange. Capture her alive. Still want to capture me for research? The corner of Arbor's mouth cracked into a sinister smile. In the blink of an eye, he moved ahead of the others. She ferociously punched out with her level 14 mystic energy and conveniently swiped out that feral. A line of fire followed, but in reality, she was only stalling for time. The current situation was rather dangerous. The woman in front of her should be a great spiritual master. Compared to that level 4 spiritual master brother too, her aura was more than just a little bit stronger. The middle-aged woman was very strong. However, she would never admit that she was weak. The world was so big that it was hard for us to imagine it. But any path in the world was man-made, one step at a time, because the entire world was under our feet. Arbor's punch was instantly devoured by the fire dragon. Fanshoa's eyes were wide open, and he had a trace of an excited smile. He thought that he could see Arbor being captured by the middle-aged woman in one move. But the truth proved that this was only his imagination. Fanshoa's expression stiffened, and he coldly watched Arbor's 4 layers of water spirit shields block the fire dragon. The fire dragon broke through Arbor's first layer of water spirit shield, the second layer. When it reached the third layer, it was already somewhat powerless. After 2 punches, it softly turned into a puff of red ash, disappearing in front of everyone. Arbor's mystic energy had actually been greatly depleted from the continuous battles, especially when she had continuously punched that brother 236 times in order to intimidate Old Monkey's group of people. Cough, cough, that's right. Although she had shouted 26 punches, she had actually hit him 36 times. So even when she was suspended in midair, she had been recovering the mystic energy in her body. Although she had not completely recovered, she had 3 more branch meridians than others, so she could cope for a while. She covered herself with 2 more water spirit shields. Inside the 4 layers of water spirit shields, she looked coldly at Fanshoa and the middle-aged woman through the mist. Do you think 4 layers of water spirit barrier can save your life? You're too naive. Before the middle-aged woman finished speaking, Arbor rotated the defensive thunder barrier between his fingers, and a translucent barrier closed over the middle-aged woman's head. Here, be careful. The middle-aged woman hastily pulled Fanshoa over in a flash, only to see the defensive thunder cover 4 to 5 corpse puppets in an instant. Within a few minutes, they were cut to pieces with lightning. Spiritual weapon. A trace of astonishment flashed through the middle-aged woman's eyes, but it only lasted for a second. An even thicker fire dragon appeared behind him, and a feathered fan appeared in his hand. With each flap, the thick fire dragon behind the woman seemed to have grown a little bigger. This should be a spirit artifact that boosts profound skills. Arbor's eyes flashed. He grabbed a vine as thick as a finger and held it tightly in his hand. This woman was going to use her ultimate move. The middle-aged woman let out an angry roar. She raised her hands, and that fire dragon actually split into 2. With an unstoppable momentum, it charged in Arbor's direction. Arbor's pupils contracted. He wanted to dodge, but he found that his body was locked onto by the woman's spiritual sense, and he couldn't move at all. Chapter 13:22. This woman's spiritual sense should be about the same as hers, or maybe even half a level stronger than hers. This was the advantage of having a strong spiritual sense. It could lock onto the target immediately and prevent them from moving an inch. Of course, this required a lot of spiritual sense and full concentration. In a battle, it also required a lot of spiritual sense to lock onto the target continuously. Just like now, Arbor wanted to move, but the middle-aged woman locked onto her and didn't let her move. Then, in the time it took to take a breath, 2 fire dragons rushed in front of her side by side. They crashed into her water spirit barrier with a loud bang. She was hit by a wave of air and fell backwards on the ground. She could clearly feel the water spirit barrier resisting the 2 fire dragons, making scraping sounds. Chi-Chi, The first water spirit shield cracked from the middle and collapsed in an instant. Then, the second, the third. The fourth. Xiaomu used her spiritual conscious to barely undo the middle-aged woman's spiritual conscious lock and dodged to the side. Although she swiftly conjured up a water spiritual barrier, the left side of her waist was still struck by one of the fire dragon's tails before she could do so. A huge force instantly sent her flying. The black double-headed crow was like a king looking down on all living things. It suddenly opened its mouth and let out a mute sound wave attack. When Arbor came into contact with this sound wave at close range, her water spirit barrier immediately shattered with a bang. A trace of blood fell from the corner of her mouth. Arbor didn't have time to wipe it off. She threw a wood spirit barrier at her and dodged to the side. After 2 attacks, she actually didn't kill this stinky girl on the spot. A trace of anger and dissatisfaction flitted through the middle-aged woman's eyes. She immediately swung her sleeves and launched the 3rd fire spirit barrier attack. This damn girl set up 4 layers of water spirit barrier each time. Could it be that she didn't use up any spiritual energy? Mystic Guiding Talisman Array. Arbor shouted angrily. Don't let her use the talisman. Fan Xiaohua's eyelids twitched. The moment Arbor set up the Mystic Guiding Talisman Array, she took out a bunch of talismans without even looking. She opened them all in one breath and threw them in the direction of the middle-aged woman. Blue attack talismans. There were a total of 30 to 40 blue offensive talismans, and each talisman had 70% of the owner's profound strength. Although it was not enough to injure the woman, it was enough to block her and buy him some time to catch his breath. There were zombies everywhere within a radius of dozens of miles. If he used the unreliable teleportation talisman, he would not know which corner he would teleport to. Arbor gritted his teeth and was about to use a teleportation talisman to teleport away. Suddenly, he saw the middle-aged woman shout angrily and emerge from the dozens of talismans, glaring at him with a red face. With a flick of her finger, 2 objects the size of glass beads appeared in her hand. Arbor's eyelids twitched. Could it be that this was a level higher than the profound energy bead? Spiritual energy bead? They were condensed by spirit masters when they were idle and used their spirit chi to deal with unexpected situations. These 2 spiritual energy beads contained an enormous amount of power. Even Arbor didn't dare to brace himself. What kind of joke was this? Although her spiritual sense was high, her cultivation had yet to break through to the spirit realm. Her physical body was even more pitifully weak. She vomited blood after being hit twice. Dodge! With a thought, she forcefully shook off the woman's spiritual sense lock and flew forward. She only heard the sound of wind whistling past her ears as the 2 spiritual energy beads attacked her from behind. Master! A voice like the sound of nature suddenly rang in her ears. Chio Chio! Arbor was about to cry. Fragmented sleep. Chapter 1323. In such a dangerous situation, Chiochio's voice was truly like the sound of nature, causing Arbor to be moved to the point of crying. Quick, Chiochio, can you fuse the heart of the forest secret realm in my inner world and the frigid pool inside it into Paradise Planet first? I'll need it later. In the blink of an eye, the 2 spiritual power pearls approached Arbor one after the other. Countless green vines and branches wrapped around Arbor, wrapping her into a cocoon in an instant. The 2 spiritual power pearls exploded beside her with 2 booms. The enormous energy waves flattened all the soil in this small area. A top buzzing sound reverberated in the air for a long time. Arbor rolled on the ground, wrapped in a large circle of vines. She hastily flipped backward, got up, and ran. Little master, I'll drag you into Paradise Planet to hide first, Chiochio said anxiously. No, I won't retreat. A faint determination flitted across Arbor's eyes. If she retreated into Paradise Planet like a tortoise whenever she encountered trouble, then she could forget about making any major breakthroughs or making any significant progress in this lifetime. Moreover, she didn't want to expose such an important thing like Paradise Planet to her 2 enemies at all. Why should she retreat? She wasn't at the end of her rope yet. And even if she was at the end of her rope, it didn't mean she had no way out. She couldn't develop the habit of retreating whenever she encountered danger. She had to bravely advance. With a taut little stoic face, Arbor said again, "Quick, Chio, listen to me. Take out the thing in the heart of the forest secret realm and fuse it with Paradise Planet first." Yes, Chio understood his little master too well. She was a strong-willed person to begin with. Under these circumstances, it was impossible for her to retreat. Since that was the case, he had to do everything possible to assist her. His master must have her reasons for doing this. Indeed, cultivators like them couldn't develop a habit of retreating whenever they encounter danger. Otherwise, it would be difficult for them to achieve great things in the future. "It hurts a bit, Master." Although he wasn't fusing the entire heart of the forest secret realm into his master's Dantian, Paradise Planet was going to change. However, now that Paradise Planet was going to be modified, it would naturally affect its master. Sure, Arbor carried a large ball of green vine shield on her back, and as she flew forward, the profound guiding talisman ray was also endlessly absorbing the profound energy between heaven and earth, slowly replenishing her profound domain. When Chio fused the frigid pond in the heart of the forest secret realm into Paradise Planet, Arbor felt his Dantian prickling. However, this pain was much lighter than the pain he felt when the Paradise Planet merged with his flesh and blood. She just had to grit her teeth and get through it. 18 defensive talismans were flung around her body, blocking the green vines outside the protection, which would be able to withstand the middle-aged woman's attack first. The middle-aged woman's face under the black veil had already become extremely grave and ugly. She couldn't believe that she still hadn't won over the young lady in front of her after such a long time. Fan Xiuhe was also anxious. He followed the middle-aged woman to besiege Arbor. However, it would have been better if he hadn't made a move. Once he made a move, he was simply adding to the chaos and holding them back. When Arbor saw this big brother, she threw all the blue attack talismans at him. Fan Xiuhe wasn't the middle-aged woman, this great spiritualist. If he received so many blue attack talismans, he would definitely die. "Here, be careful." The middle-aged woman pulled him aside. Chapter 1324. A vicious glint flitted across her face under the black veil, and she berated, "Little vicious woman, you're really vicious." Arbor couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with her. This middle-aged woman was very powerful and didn't seem to have any emotional fluctuations during the fight. This kind of person was much harder to deal with than those who showed their emotions on the surface. This middle-aged woman could be considered a character, but unfortunately, she was destined to be buried with Fan Xiuhe today. Arbor's eyes narrowed coldly, and she suddenly fished out the heart of the forest mystic realm that little tree had finished fusing. In this forest mystic realm, other than the frigid pool, only Senior Xuanji's hut needed to be fused. The other messy stones and mud were of no use. At this moment, other than the mystic energy that filled the heart of the mystic realm, there was basically nothing left. Arbor lifted her eyelids and glanced in the direction of the middle-aged woman. Instead of retreating, she stepped on the ground and sprinted toward the two people. The woman's eyes under the black veil moved quietly, and her brows knitted involuntarily. A terrifying sense of crisis suddenly surfaced in her heart. Not good. This wretched girl probably had some special method to deal with them. Here, the middle-aged woman grabbed Fan Xiuhe's arm and gazed at Xiao Mu. She saw Xiao Mu abruptly toss a round object in her hand at them, and it exploded in an instant. Arbor's body suddenly floated into the air. The middle-aged woman's eyes were instantly filled with the light of exploding mystic energy. The mystic light that filled the sky and covered the earth made the two of them seem to be at the center of the explosion. Ah! The middle-aged woman let out a tragic roar. Before the violent mystic energy fluctuations completely cut her and Fan Xiuhe apart, she threw out a jade talisman array made up of 24 jade talismans. In an instant, the two people's figures quickly retreated from the center of the mystic energy explosion. Arbor, who was suspended in midair and looking down coldly at the rolling rubble and cracked soil, curled her lips into a cold smile. Transportation Talisman Array. It was a transportation talisman array. This woman actually had a transportation talisman array made up of 24 jade talismans. This kind of teleportation glyph array was very difficult to draw, not to mention that it was drawn by a jade talisman. It was not sold on the market at all. In this way, he was completely sure that this woman was definitely related to the Divine Prefecture's Mu clan. Was she from the Mu family of the Divine Land? Could it be that 7th Master Mu was the one who attacked her? Was it her rejection that made him angry out of humiliation? For people like them who lived high and mighty in the upper 3 continents, being rejected by a small shrimp from a small lower star region was an extremely embarrassing thing. Since he couldn't obtain the young genius of the clan, he might as well destroy him. Was that what he meant? Arbor's eyes instantly became extremely cold, revealing a sky full of flames and monstrous hatred. Why should she be killed by someone else? His fists were already clenched tightly. Even with such an excellent opportunity, he still couldn't kill Fan Xiuha. She hated it. After landing on the ground with a whoosh, Xiaomu only saw a broken leg lying on the ground. This was a man's leg. From the top of the knee to the sole of the foot, along with that black boot, it had all been cut open by profound energy. Fan Xiuha lost a leg. But for Arbor, this was really too small a price to pay. She actually let him escape. Arbor's cold little face contained a trace of harshness. Chapter 1325. Xiaomu stood there with a cold face, and sand billowed everywhere as they tumbled down. Smoke and dust filled the air. The entire city lord's manor couldn't withstand the power of the heart of the secret realm's explosion. It slowly turned to sand and gradually turned to ash. At this moment, a metal chain suddenly emerged from the corner of the wall and flung towards Arbor's arm. Croak! A large-mouthed toad emerged from the base of the wall and spat a mouthful of venom at Arbor. Arbor glanced at it coldly and sprinkled a cloud of powder with her hand, evaporating the venom with a hiss. She wrapped herself in a wood spirit shield and grabbed at the corner of the wall. Her small hand, covered in a Vajra talisman, stabbed into someone's shoulder, eliciting a pained howl. Bang! A young man was dragged out from behind the wall by Arbor and landed directly at Arbor's feet. He was firmly bound by a green vine that she flung out, and he let out another cry of pain. This was the young man who had escaped with the woman from Ani Manor. Arbor glanced around and saw Guan Ying in the corner of the wall, frantically abandoning her companions and fleeing for her life. That large-mouthed toad should be Guan Ying's mystic beast. When it saw its master flee, it turned into a streak of light and disappeared into the mystic beast space. What a pitiful worm, Arbor said coldly. Your teammates abandoned you. Don't kill me, don't kill me. The young man's eyes were filled with terror, and a strong hatred for Guan Ying emerged from the bottom of his heart. His original intention was that this little girl wasn't to be trifled with. Since Reverend Zhao was dead, they should hurry and find a chance to escape. Who knew that Guan Ying coveted the little girl's secrets and was still unwilling to let go of the heart of Xuanji? She insisted on dragging him over to take a look. Just take a look, but she suddenly attacked the girl. She couldn't beat the others and implicated him. She even fled on her own. No matter how he looked at it, he felt wronged. That brat from the Fan family said that you have the heart of Xuanji. Guan Ying. She wants it. No, it's not my fault. It's Guan Ying. Ani Prefecture's 4th miss, Guan Ying. She wants a Xuanji core. She wants to kill you. Ah. The young man only felt waves of pain assaulting the depths of his consciousness. An extremely terrifying feeling of being peeled off came from within. Something extremely important was being extracted from his body. It was extremely terrifying. Ah! The young man cried out as he watched the gate to his inner world being forcibly torn open by someone's spiritual sense. No, it was impossible. In this world, how could there be someone who could take away another person's inner world? With a series of crackling noises, the young man was perplexed to find that the things that originally existed in his inner world were all being emptied out. His inner world, that those who covet other people's things will eventually taste their own medicine. Arbor stepped on his back. Speak, what's the relationship between an E-prefecture and that middle-aged woman? Are they the same? The young man had already fainted from the pain. Now that she stepped on his spine, his entire body trembled, and he became a bit more awake. Knowing that he would meet his end here today, no matter what, the young man steeled his heart and simply said, "You just kill me. Kill me. I only ask for a quick death." Humph. Arbor snorted coldly. "Answer me honestly. I'll give you a quick death." "No, I don't know her." The young man groaned. Chapter 13:26. The young man spat out a large amount of blood as he shook his head. "No, I don't know them. We didn't come together." Sure enough, the two groups weren't on the same side. Consecrated Zhao and Guan Ying from Ani Prefecture must have gotten the information from the Fan clan and guessed that the Xuanji core was in her possession. They came here to obtain the Xuanji core from her, but they didn't expect to lose two of their people here. Only Guan Ying managed to escape. As for Old Monkey and Brother Two's group that the middle-aged woman brought along, they were very likely from the Mu clan of the Divine Province. Their goal was to eliminate her, the little genius. Mu Laochi did it? A venomous glint flitted through Arbor's eyes. No matter who did it, she absolutely wouldn't let this matter rest. They chased after her the entire way for fun, and they still wanted her to admit defeat? In his dreams of 1,000 autumns. As for Fan Xiuhe, the two of them were probably related since that middle-aged woman was so protective of him. At first, Fan Xiuhe only wanted to borrow the Ani Prefecture trio's strength to kill her at Jiaozhong base. Later, he discovered that the Ani Prefecture trio was useless, so he notified that middle-aged woman. As Arbor thought this, she raised her hand to pound her aching head. She couldn't recall where she had seen this middle-aged woman before. Could it be that she really saw this middle-aged woman in her previous life? Was it in Fan Xiuhe's sealed laboratory? "Jojo!" An anxious shout interrupted her thoughts. Arbor blinked and turned to look. She saw Mo Lien leaping toward her, followed by Duan Yu, Eldest Qin, and 100 others. They were escorting a group of wilted, old monkey companions. It seemed like Mo Lien and the others had taken action and captured these little spiritual cultivators. Arbor's eyes flashed, and she immediately flitted toward Mo Lien, landing in the man's arms. "Jojo, are you all right? What was that vibration just now? We heard it from far away." "Let me see. Are you injured?" "Don't worry. As long as I'm here, nothing will happen to Master." A slender little treant lay on Arbor's shoulder and shook its head at Mo Lien. Only then did Mo Lien see the tiny treant. She heaved a sigh of relief and said, "The tiny treant is out." "Yes." Arbor nodded. "If it wasn't for Sapling's help, I'm afraid I would have suffered a great loss this time. It's nothing serious. It's just that my body is too weak." Arbor frowned. It seemed that he had to try to temper his body after returning to the capital. Mo Lien reached out to hold her, but she raised her hand to check her pulse instead. "Why is your breath a little irregular?" It's nothing. It's the heavenly law. Some people have angered the heavenly law, so it's good enough that they can break free," Duan Yu teased as he also walked over. Arbor cast a sidelong glance at Mo Lien. "What kind of incredible power did you use?" Mo Lien threw Duan Yu a cold glance before turning to say to Arbor, "It's fine now. Don't worry, I'll take care of your injuries right now." Duan Yu quickly walked up and sized up Arbor. "Jojo, you're injured? You were the one who caused that huge commotion just now." "MHM," Arbor nodded. "I detonated the heart of the mystic beast forest's secret realm. I originally wanted to keep Fan Xiuhe and a middle-aged woman here forever, but who knew that they would escape?" The two men couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. Jojo actually detonated a mystic domain so generously. No wonder the entire City Lord's estate turned into a puff of ash in such a huge quake. Chapter 13:27. It's good that you captured these people. I'm going to ask them something. After speaking with the two, Arbor immediately walked towards Eldest Qin and the others. Everyone crowded around and asked questions, but Arbor waved her hand to indicate that she was fine before walking to Eldest Qin's side. Before eldest Sheen could ask, the little fellow ruthlessly kicked a person's head. Her voice was as cold as ice as she asked, "Are you people from the Divine Province's Mu clan?" Cough, cough, cough. That person was Old Monkey's sworn brother, but he was quite stubborn. After Arbor kicked him and punched him twice, he still didn't say a word other than coughing. "Is there any way to make them talk?" Arbor turned to look at Emolien. Her dictum talisman was completely useless against this person whose cultivation was much higher than hers. If they were both in the mystic realm, perhaps she could give it a try. However, this person's cultivation was around the 3rd level of the spiritual realm, much higher than hers. The dictum talisman was ineffective against him, so it was useless even if she used it. As for those repulsive fellows beside him, they were all clamoring for mercy before she could even hit them. They said a lot of fawning and begging words, so they didn't seem like people who understood the truth. Search his soul. It's simple and convenient. Eldest Sheen tugged at the corner of his mouth, revealing a cold smile. "I'll search him." Duan Yu volunteered, but was stopped by Emolien. "No need." However, before they could finish arguing, that stubborn man was already trembling all over in fright. He couldn't help but shout, Don't search my soul." Arbor looked at them in confusion. She didn't understand what this soul search was. Look at how scared this person was. "I'll talk. I'll tell you everything," that person hastily said, spilling everything he knew. "We're not from the Divine Province's Mu clan. We're disciples of the 6 Prefectures Continent's Clear Sky faction. That woman is called Fangu, our Clear Sky faction's vice-faction master. In the 6 Prefectures Continent, the Clear Sky sect can be considered a small mid-tier power, but we—" "Liar," Arbor interrupted him coldly. "She has a teleportation glyph formation made of 24 jade talismans. Even I wouldn't believe it if he wasn't from a talisman aristocratic family. Would you believe it?" Everyone shook their heads. 24 jade talismans, or something of a transportation talisman array. Just from the sound of it, one could tell that it was a high-level talisman array. They had never seen such a thing on Seacombe Planet before. "Yes, it's true, it's true." The man was so anxious that the sweat on his forehead slid down. This lowly one wouldn't dare to say anything false. Vice-faction leader, Fangu has never talked about her past in front of us. As for those strange talismans on her body, some of us have asked her about them, but she never told us. "Miss, this operation was ordered by the vice-sect leader. We are just a group of small fries carrying out the mission. Please be magnanimous and let us go. We promise that we will never harass you again. Only the dead will not disturb me." Arbor's cold voice made everyone's heart skip a beat. "Hand over all the black spirit jade in your inner worlds. Forget it. Take out everything you have in your inner worlds." Arbor tilted her head and nodded at the man on the ground whose inner worlds had been stripped. "When I make my move, you will suffer even more." Chapter 1328. Black Spirit Jade? The pupils of the Clear Sky Sect's group contracted slightly, practically not daring to believe their ears. What did she want? Black Spirit Jade? Something like Profound Spirit Jade. How could small fries like them possibly have it on them? Black Spirit Jade could replenish and raise the 5 spirits, and it was a good item for replenishing energy for divine beasts and above. But how could they have something like that? For one thing, their 5 spirits were very low level and couldn't be replenished. For another, they didn't have divine beasts that needed this. Moreover, Black Spirit Jade veins weren't visible everywhere. They were buried deep underground, and even if they used special tools to detect them, they might not be alive to dig them up, all right? This little girl wanted something so high-class the moment she opened her mouth. Where were they going to go? Among them, a few of the men with unwilling expressions were the first to feel a piercing pain in their consciousness. Their inner worlds instantly overturned, and it was as if it was raining, and things kept falling down with a pitter-patter. When the others saw their pained expressions, their hearts convulsed in fright, and they stared in horror at the stoic-faced little girl in front of them. "We will give everything." These people scrambled to be the first to dig out the items, regretting fervently in their hearts that they had followed the vice-sect master to find trouble with this girl. Now, not only did they have to give away everything in their inner worlds, they couldn't even keep their lives. They wondered if there was a medicine for regret in this world. Brother Axe and the others were also staring blankly at this young crown prince consort. They really had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. They came to hunt down the crown princess, but not only did they have to hand over everything in their inner worlds, they even had to pay with their lives. After sifting through this pile of trash for half a day, Xiao Mu finally found 2 pieces of black spirit jade and several stalks of black rank medicinal herb from the Clear Sky faction Disciples' Inner World. She didn't care for the rest. She pointed at the large pile of things on the ground. "You guys take it and divide it. Everyone!" Exclamation point. A petite female mystic cultivator asked agitatedly, Really, Crown Princess?" The Crown Princess said that she wanted to give it to you, so just take it. Mo Yin waved her hand and asked them to move the things to the side. Situ, Yi, and Liang Qingqing didn't go up to share it. They had received the storage talismans from Arbor before, and the things inside were much better than this trash. Naturally, they didn't care for it. There seemed to be a lot of things, but with 100 people dividing them, each person did not get much. However, the process of dividing them was very lively and happy. Everyone felt that this trip was not in vain. "Jojo, how should we deal with these people?" Eldest Qin kicked the unlucky guy who had fallen to the ground after his inner world was taken away. "Kill." Arbor didn't even blink. If it weren't for the fact that her current life was completely different from her previous one, and that she had an endless number of trump cards, she wouldn't have been able to use them. Wouldn't he have been surrounded and chased all the way here and killed in this remote base? So, don't be unconvinced. Everything is fate. Who told them to have the intention to kill her? If she didn't kill them, was she going to let the tiger return to the mountain? She had to be vicious and merciless towards her enemies. Eldest Qin nodded and waved his hand, gesturing for several mystic cultivators to come forward and take care of them. "Have you found the storehouse?" "Not yet." Duan Yu shook his head. "With 2 consecutive huge explosions, I reckon that the nearby zombies will be attracted here." Arbor nodded. Continue searching. Chapter 1329. She tugged at Mo Lian's hand and pulled him to the side. "I need to adjust my breathing for a bit." "All right, I'll watch over you here." Seeing her sit down, Mo Lian also found a slightly flatter rock to sit down beside her. The crumbling earth walls around them had already gradually stopped moving. The entire City Lord's manor had now been reduced to rubble. Arbor turned her head and said softly to the little treant on her shoulder, "Chio, integrate my other secret inheritance realm into the star domain." All right, Chio loved doing this kind of thing the most. In the past, other than the main star, there were 4 other largest planets in Master Star Domain. Each of them could completely surpass the vast area of Paradise Planet. But now, nothing could be opened. Fortunately, Master's cultivation had already risen to level 14, so he could do more things in the future. Master, you're already level 14. In the future, you'll be able to throw some small living animals into Paradise Planet yourself. The 2 people didn't have anything to say in front of Mo Lian, so they discussed Paradise Planet's matters in low voices. Is that so? Although Arbor's face was stoic, she was extremely happy in her heart. Chio seemed to have mentioned before that as long as her cultivation rose to level 13, she would be able to take animals into Paradise Planet. Now that she was a genuine level 14 profound realm, she could naturally do it. Master, you're awesome. During this period of time that Chio wasn't around, you didn't lag behind your cultivation at all, and even soared so much. So amazing. Chio's string of praises made Xiao Mu blush slightly. If the Yuan hadn't cheated her and forced her to cultivate in seclusion for so long, who knew what realm she would still be lingering in? Although the rapid cultivation talisman was quite a cheat, it was extremely beneficial for the path of cultivation. From this, it seemed that not all talismans were unacceptable in the world. Moreover, some special talismans would only become more and more crooked in the hands of evil people. Arbor closed her eyes and waited for Chio to integrate Long Chiyun's secret inheritance realm into her Dantian star domain. This process was a little longer than transforming Paradise Planet, but compared to the pain of fusing with Paradise Planet for the first time, it was still bearable. An hour later, Longqian's land of inheritance merged with her star domain. A tiny star that was originally beside Paradise Planet suddenly lit up. Arbor looked inside his Dantian. His eyes were filled with spiritual energy, and he suddenly entered the small star. Longqian's land of inheritance did not change at all. The three thatched huts looked somewhat lonely on the vast planet. There was only a small row of trees in front of the door. After the entire secret realm merged with the star field, it had expanded more than 3 times its original size and was filled with dense, profound energy. Arbor retracted his gaze and looked at Paradise Planet. When he saw it, he couldn't help but be shocked. The entire Paradise Planet, after being partially transformed by the forest mystic realm, had now become so exquisite and beautiful. The peach forest was fluttering in the wind, and the lake was gurgling. Behind the peach slope was a clear, cold pool, and beside the pool was a small house. In front of the door was a pile of rugged rocks. Outside the peach forest, several storehouses had been built to store supplies. Currently, she had 3 granaries, 2 vegetable storehouses, and 1 meat and poultry storehouse. The previous peach storehouse had long been filled. Another one had been rebuilt, and it looked like it was going to be piled up on the wooden beam again. Qiuqiu had built 2 storehouses for medicinal ingredients, and the first storehouse was also almost full. Chapter 1330. The 100-her garden encompassed 50 mu of medicinal land on Paradise Planet. Qiuqiu had named this garden after it. Outside the garden was another 100 poison valley, which was filled with poisonous flowers and herbs. Xiao Xiao, the poison-tailed butterfly queen, led a flock of little butterflies to wander about inside. It was quiet behind the peach garden slope. The newly built maple pavilion that Qiuqiu had built for her was standing on the slope. It had even planted the longevity tree and that mutated peach tree over there. The 2 trees were in full bloom, and the slope was quiet and secluded. Arbor's mind stirred, and she tossed a large batch of elementary herbs into Paradise Planet from her storage talisman. She had Qiuqiu build a random elementary herb storehouse and pile it up. With Qiuqiu's control over the wood spirit, it didn't take much effort to build an elementary herb storehouse out of wood. It was done in a few breaths. It also built an empty storehouse for her while it was at it. It said with a chuckle, "Why don't you move all the messy supplies and the 2 carriages in front of the door into this storehouse?" Arbor nodded. She remembered that the supplies in the 2 carriages were things that she had hurriedly asked second uncle to get for her in the beginning. There were all kinds of fruits, meat, vegetables, and seasonings inside. Apart from that, there was also second uncle's wine, some basic medicine, gauze, and so on. In the future, you can use this carriage whenever you want. Remember to find a few more horses to put in. I've already taken a good look at the terrain. I'll build you a farm in front of the magnetite mine. What do you think? Make it a little further away. That's for sure. We can't let these 4-legged beasts ruin the Paradise Planet that we worked so hard to build, Qiuqiu said cheerfully. Qiuqiu chuckled merrily. I'll enclose them and make a large farm so that they won't wander around. If by any chance some blind cow or pig jumped out and trampled on their 100-her garden, then Qiuqiu would die of heartache. Arbor was in a good mood. She had a goal in the future, and she had to find more animals that hadn't mutated to take in. That way, she wouldn't have to worry about cutting off the supply of meat and poultry for a long time. Now, her Paradise Planet was truly thriving, and she had everything she needed. To put it bluntly, even if the entire Seacone planet were to explode and be destroyed, she could hide in Paradise Planet with her friends and family and live out the rest of her life peacefully. Of course, this was the worst-case scenario. She didn't want that to happen. She still hoped that the lives of the people outside would get better day by day. Before the next nightcaw bird made a move, eliminating it as the source would probably bring a ray of light to this gloomy world. Withdrawing her inner sight, she turned her gaze to Mo Lien, who was staring at her. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Lien, when we're done here, let's go to Paradise Planet and take a look. It's so beautiful now. All right, Qiuqiu, Did second uncle finish planting all the seeds that he collected earlier? Chow Mu turned her head to look at the little treant that was clambering up her shoulder. Yes. Look, now the medicinal field has expanded to 50 mu compared to 30 mu before. I planted everything I could. Isn't it great? It's really great. Arbor wasn't stingy with her praise. Cho knows the habits of plants like the back of his hand. He's really helped me a lot. Master, as long as you're happy, Cho shouted while dancing with joy. Besides, I don't have to waste any effort. I can just summon more treant clones. Arbor raised her hand and stroked the 5 tender leaves on his head. Chapter 1331. And it's not just those seeds that second uncle gave me. There's also the seeds that City Lord Luge of Shuang City gave me last time. They've basically all been planted. The little treant swayed its leaves and called out softly, Master, what else do you want Cho to plant? Arbor couldn't help but laugh. He wanted to say that there wasn't anything else to plant, but his mind suddenly moved. He raised his finger, and a seed appeared on his fingertip. He handed it to the treant's branch. What seed is this? It looks like a spirit tea seed. When Imogen heard that, her eyelids suddenly twitched. She coughed lightly and said, Is it that seed that you picked up for the House of Treasures last time? And it's that time when I picked up 5 million. Little sister gave it to me. Arbor nodded. Imogen. She suddenly wanted to laugh. This little guy was too funny. A random seed that he picked up was actually a spirit tea seed. What's a spirit tea seed? Is it useful? It's useful. The little treant Cho nodded furiously and said, Once this spirit tea tree is planted, you'll have spirit tea to drink when you enter the spirit realm in the future. Not only will it help you cultivate in the spirit realm, but most importantly, it can subtly improve the entire mystic domain. In other words, Master, if you plant this spirit tea tree, when the time comes, the entire paradise planet might evolve from the mystic domain to the spirit realm. Don't you think this change is big? No matter how ignorant Arbor was, he knew that the mystic domain only produced mystic energy, while the spirit realm could produce spirit energy. Naturally, they couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Cho, can you really grow this spirit tea tree? Cho patted his treant's head. Of course, don't you know who I am? But if little Earth wakes up, that'll be even better. With its sacred soil's nourishment, I guarantee that this spirit tea tree will grow into a small tree in 2 or 3 days. Now, he could only plant it first and let the great Cho speed it up to see if it could grow a seedling first. Ball. Arbor grabbed one of his treant's claws. Thank you for your hard work. Cho looked excited and intoxicated. Wow, little master keeps praising Cho. Cho is so happy that I'm about to fly. Remember to do a good job. Arbor flicked him. Are Xiao Shui and the others awake? No. Cho shook its head. As soon as he raised his head, he saw a behemoth-like gorilla following behind Qing Wan. His pair of bean-like eyes immediately became round. Wow, Master, who is this baboon? Master. Qing Wan transformed into a little chick and rushed towards her. Oh, while you were away, I even picked up a giant ape and an egg. Little Tree was speechless. Shock. It had only been a few short months since he last saw his master. Why? Why had there been a few more strange people by his master's side? They were all here to fight for Cho's favor. Ow. Cho, don't howl like a wolf. Arbor patted his treant's head. Bring Qing Wan and the others back to Paradise Planet first. Cho responded reluctantly and stared at the giant ape. It wants to go in too? Bring it to Senior Xianji's small house. The giant ape clearly understood, and Little Black's eyes lit up slightly. Arbor glanced sideways at Cho. Cho, let me ask you something. Didn't you mention Black Spirit Jade to me before? You should have some on you. Chapter 1332. Cho immediately extended 2 small tree branches and repeatedly waved its hands. No. Cho doesn't have anything. When Arbor saw its guilty look, she knew that something was amiss. She pulled a taut face and tried her best to make her lips curl into a smile. She stepped forward and hooked one of Qiuqiu's tree branches. Qiuqiu, Master is telling you. Master only needs 997 pieces of black spirit jade. The rest is all yours. The sapling looked at her with a stupefied expression. Why the hell did these words sound so strange? If it didn't hand them over, not only would the rest belong to it, all of it would belong to it. No, no, no. Master, Qiuqiu is very poor. Qiuqiu flipped its two small tree branches over to express its helplessness and poverty. On the side, Imo Yin couldn't help but laugh when she saw this interaction between the adult and child. Qiuqiu, I'm not asking you to hand over the black spirit jade now. I just want you to do me a small favor. Lend the black spirit jade to Master for a while. When we find the black spirit jade mine, I'll give it all to you. But what if we can't find it? Qiuqiu quivered and repeatedly shook its head. Master, I only have a little over 100 pieces of black spirit jade. They're all used to replenish and save lives at critical moments. Qiuqiu? The sapling widened its small black eyes. It suddenly turned around and pointed its tree, but at her. I am leaving, Master. I just remembered that I need to go in and regulate my breathing. Only then can I stabilize my realm. And then goodbye, Master. Then, without another word, it pulled Xingwan, the little fat squirrel, and the large ape back to Paradise Planet. Leaving behind a helpless arbor, she shook her head and said, Egg, I've already tried my best. Looks like you still have to find the black spirit jade yourself. Master, why don't you also let me go to that whatever Paradise Planet? I sensed a very dense mystic energy on that Trant. Arbor thought that it made sense. The dense mystic energy on Paradise Planet would also help the Phoenix egg hatch. Why don't I refine 2 mystic gathering pills for you to help you hatch? Egg. Master, do you think I can eat pills in my current state? That's right. Arbor coughed lightly and immediately changed the topic, calling out to Qiuqiu. Qiuqiu, drag the egg to Paradise Planet. After everything was settled, Arbor simply turned off the chattering of the little ones on Paradise Planet. He looked up at Imo Yin and tilted his head. Sorry to keep you waiting. Not long at all. Imo Yin reached out and pinched her little nose. She leaned closer and whispered, I'm really curious now. I wonder what Paradise Planet has become. When Arbor thought of that beautiful mystic domain, his little face couldn't help but relax. He leaned closer to Imo Yin and said, It's beautiful. Cough. An untimely cough came from beside the two of them. When they looked back, they saw that guy Duan you had unknowingly squatted beside them. He also lowered his voice and asked curiously, What Paradise Planet? Arbor patted his head and said, I'll take you there when I have the chance. Duan you. Imo Yin held back his belly full of laughter as he pulled Xiao Mu to her feet. On the other end, he heard a teammate shout, Found it! Found it! Everyone, quickly come over. Everyone cheered and ran over in high spirits. Sure enough, Jiaozhong Base's underground storehouse was right below the tunnel. Brother Axe led a few people to dig up the storehouse. It was as big as 2 small plazas. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1333. Everyone let out wow. Wow sounds one after another. Their eyebrows and mouths were all full of smiles. This trip was truly worth it. Not only did they clear out the majority of the zombies in Jiaozhong Base, but they also reaped such a bountiful harvest. The underground storehouse was basically filled with stored grain. Fruits and vegetables were very scarce because they were difficult to store. There were some basic medicines, but not a lot. Upon seeing this, Arbor glanced at Imo Yin. Bring all of this back to the Mo Kingdom capital. 2 months' worth of stored grain will be enough. With so much food stored up, Lord Song of the Ministry of Revenue would probably cry a lot again. But there's so much. Even if we fill up all of our inner worlds, we won't be able to bring it back. We'd better use carriages to escort it back. A female mystic cultivator said worriedly. Brother Axe nodded. That's right. How about we take a stroll around the city and see if we can get a few carriages? Forget it. The zombies probably tore apart all of the living creatures in the city. Where are we going to find horses? With our Jojo here, this bit of supplies is nothing. Liang Qingqing laughed heartily and hugged Arbor's shoulders. She patted her and said, "Come on, Jojo, throw out the storage talismans." Arbor couldn't help but find it amusing. She looked up at everyone and said, "Go and fetch some grain." Brother Axe stuttered, but we were paid for this trip." "This? What blockhead? Hurry and go pack. It's fine if everyone packs 1 or 200 caddies. Consider it an extra reward." Everyone performed well this time. Duan Yu waved his hand, dismissing the jubilant team members to pack the grain. Most importantly, the team members were very obedient and didn't show any idiots. They worked together to complete a beautiful mission with 0 casualties, so Arbor was actually very pleased. On the other hand, the 4 superhumans in the team were a bit embarrassed. After joining the team this time, they actually didn't contribute much and even received everyone's protection and care. It was simply too comfortable to follow this kind of team. Arbor's group, Situ Yi, Liang Qingqing, and the others gathered together and exchanged a few words. It was only after the team members happily finished packing and returned that Xiao Mu flung out several dozen storage talismans, storing everything in the storehouse and handing it all to Emolian. Minister Song must be overjoyed. Emolian shook her head in amusement. So many bad things have happened, so just let him be happy. Xiao Mu looked up at the sky aloofly. "It seems like it's going to rain soon," a female mystic cultivator said softly. A string in Xiao Mu's brain seemed to have been pulled taut in an instant, stretching taut with a bang. "Rain? It's raining." Emolian and Duan Yu also shouted in unison. The 3 of them looked at each other and understood that they were thinking the same thing. This is indeed a good idea. TSK, TSK. Eldest Qin clapped the fan in his hand and nodded as he muttered to himself. Situ Yi, who was standing at the side, also understood. His eyes widened in shock. "Is that really the case? Hey. You guys, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?" Liang Qingqing poked Situ Yi and looked at them in bewilderment. "Someone injected zombie poison into Jiaozhong base. You mean these zombies didn't appear by chance, but man-made?" Chapter 1334. Eldest Qin's eyes flashed, and he couldn't help but laugh. "You didn't just find out, did you?" Liang Qingqing was momentarily at a loss for words. After a few seconds, she nodded. "That's right, I just found out." She really wanted to burst into tears. Everyone was smart, but she was so stupid. Everyone couldn't help but laugh as they glanced at her. "Junior sister Liang, we're talking about why Jiaozhong base's water source was destroyed. That's because someone secretly took advantage of the rain to throw corpse poison down from the sky and mix it with the rain," Situ Yi explained. "So that's how it is." Liang Qingqing looked like she'd come to a sudden realization. She abruptly turned to Mo Lian and asked, "Your Highness Crown Prince, then won't the other fortifications also be invaded like this? If there's a first, there'll be a second." Mo Lian coldly said, "Right now, the most important thing is to pass down the order that it's best to put up a protective barrier over all the water bodies. This would definitely require a lot of effort. Some poor fortifications might not have large defensive mystic artifacts or the like." Right. Liang Qingqing nodded like a chick pecking at rice, especially those pawns in the city. They're the easiest to manage. First, control them. It doesn't seem like there's any use just having people standing guard over there. We need to add a protective barrier, or maybe build a roof or something. I can provide some protective talisman arrays. They can last longer than a protective barrier. Currently, they can last about half a month, Arbor said with a nod. "Junior sister, then I'll have to trouble you too much." Liang Qingqing nodded gratefully. This was for the sake of all the common people in the Mo kingdom. Liang Qingqing simply couldn't imagine what kind of hell this world would become if they completely lost every clean water source. "That definitely won't happen," Arbor said with a resolute expression. She'd already experienced it once. The water source had turned into filth, and many people had died of thirst after losing their water source. This kind of death was extremely despairing. Protect the water source. Everyone clenched their fists and roared with high fighting spirit. Protect the water source. Eldest Qin chuckled as he looked at everyone, All right, we've rested enough. Did you guys feel it? After the previous 2 earthquakes, many corpse puppets rushed here. Although there aren't as many as before, there are at least hundreds and thousands of them. Then let's fight. Everyone was in high spirits. Let's go up first. Everyone nodded. Just as they walked up from the underground warehouse, they bumped into more than 10 members from Rice City. When they saw the people from Arbor, their expressions changed slightly. They quickly ran over and looked at the underground warehouse. Soon after, a few of the valiant members among them started cursing. Fuck you. They didn't even leave us a single grain of rice. Isn't this too immoral? Of our 200 members, only a dozen are left. In the end, we didn't even get a single grain of rice. How are we going to hand in the quest when we get back? This mission to clean up and collect supplies at Jiaozhong Base had actually caused 90% of them to lose their lives. The rest didn't even get a single hair. How could they accept this? Eldest Qin's eyes flashed, and he laughed mockingly. Who told you to be short-handed? Who can you blame? You guys. Callie was just about to step forward when she was pulled back by the leader of Rice City's operation team. The leader was in his 30s and wore a suit of green armor. Chapter 1335. The leader was in his 30s and had a burly figure in green armor. While speaking to Mo Yin and the others, this person spoke extremely quickly, rattling off everything like a bamboo tube. Everyone. I believe that everyone came to Jiaozhong Base for the same purpose, to carry out this cleanup and material collection mission. We set off from Rice City and were besieged by many zombies here. Now that we finally broke free, we sacrificed 90% of our team members. Then shouldn't everyone be a little friendlier to us? Even if you don't give us half of the supplies, at least give us 1/5 or 2/5 of the supplies so that we can bring them back to Rice City to complete the mission. Otherwise, this is too unreasonable. TSK. A female mystic cultivator in Arbor's team snorted disdainfully. Please, we're not running a charity. We're all here for a mission and have nothing to do with each other. You're making it sound like we owe you. That doesn't make sense, right? Friend, what you're saying. Leader, why are you being so long-winded with them? Callie suddenly took out a carved token from under her skirt and waved it in front of everyone. Jiaozhong Base was originally Rice City's territory. All the supplies belonged to Rice City. Now, I order you to hand them over, or else. Oh, I'll go. A small commotion came from Rice City's team. Just as Callie was blabbering on, a middle-aged team member suddenly pounced from behind and hugged Callie from behind. He opened his mouth and bit the back of her neck. Oh. Rice City's team members cried out in horror. Heavens, this person has mutated. The leader turned around and chopped off the head of the team member who had pounced on Callie with one slash. All the Rice City team members scattered in all directions, leaving a large empty space in the middle for Callie and the leader. Carly covered the back of her neck, which was stinging with pain, and let out a piercing shriek. Don't be nervous. Just as the leader was about to speak, he caught a glimpse of Arbor's team from the corner of his eye. They took up their stances and aimed at Callie, ready to attack. Don't attack. The leader gestured for everyone to stop. He was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. It's fine. He'll be fine. You're lying to yourself. Brother Axe roared. Someone in your team has mutated, but you've been kept in the dark. No, that's not it. Cut the crap and kill this woman. No, don't attack. Don't move. The leader stepped back while protecting Carly. He glared at Axe Brother and the others. What are you doing? Didn't you see that she was bitten? She'll mutate soon, okay? Liang Qingqing frowned. You're not helping her. You're harming your entire team. We have a way to suppress the zombie transformation. The leader roared. And Aishang come out. At the back of the Rice City team, a girl who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old walked out. She had 2 braids, and her cheeks were flushed red. That girl bit her finger and grinned foolishly. She stared at Duan Yu in a daze, looking like she couldn't pull her gaze away and couldn't walk anymore. Arbor's team all turned to look at Duan Yu. The latter was originally leisurely fanning his Ravenbone fan, but his handsome face stiffened when he saw that girl's infatuated gaze. Chapter 1336. Pfft. Eldest Sheen snickered mischievously. Oh, you've hit it off just like that. Jojo. Duanyu immediately hid behind Arbor. The little fellow extended 2 fingers and compared the distance and direction of their line of sight. Suddenly, she raised a small hand to block Duanyu's front and hollered, "What are you looking at?" Now that she was standing in front of everyone, it felt like she had someone to rely on. Although the little lady was petite, her image immediately grew taller in everyone's eyes. Situ-E twitched his mouth and threw Duanyu a look of disdain for being a good-for-nothing. Then, he stepped forward and asked, "Leader of the Rice City team, are you trying to tell us that Miss Enai Shang from your team can help suppress the zombie poison's mutation?" "That's right." The leader nodded and glared fiercely at the love-struck Enai Shang. "Hurry, treat Callie." Enai Shang foolishly glanced at Duanyu a few more times and was kicked twice by the leader before reluctantly retracting her gaze and walking to Callie's side. "The wound is here. Enai Shang, hurry up." The leader pointed at the back of Callie's neck where she was bitten, indicating for her to act quickly. Enai Shang smacked her lips and reached out to place her right hand on the back of Callie's neck. Everyone saw her right hand emitting a faint glow, and their noses were instantly filled with a faint medicinal fragrance. "Wow." A female mystic cultivator from Arbor's team sniffed and commented, "What a rich medicinal fragrance." Standing next to Xiao Mu, Emo Yin's eyes flickered, and he only glanced at that girl called Nick Hang before retracting his gaze. "You've never seen an apothecary before, right?" The leader of the Rice City team said smugly to Arbor's team. "It's normal that you haven't." "What apothecary?" Brother Axe and the rest had indeed never heard of apothecaries. After all, apothecaries had always been very rare superhumans, so it was normal that they hadn't seen them before. "Superhumans." The leader pointed at Enai Shang and exclaimed loudly, "She's in our team. The only apothecary." Unlike those pill alchemists who painstakingly practice pill refinement, apothecaries like Enai Shang are born with a unique medicinal effect. Axe's brother and the others looked at each other in dismay. The female mystic couldn't help but ask in confusion, "You mean that she can save those mutated zombies?" An uproar broke out in Xiao Mu's 100-person team. Did the appearance of this so-called apothecary come to save all the humans on Seacombe Planet? Don't listen to his nonsense. Arbor's voice was indifferent, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. If it can really cure the corpse poison, then that member of their team wouldn't have mutated just now. Everyone thought that it made sense, and they all looked at the leader suspiciously. The leader stammered and hurriedly said, "Although we can't completely eradicate it now, as long as Enai Shang's special ability evolves slightly, then." Brother Axe and the others hissed at him. "You're screwing your teammates over. Do you know that?" They all shouted at the same time. "You're the one whose head was kicked by a donkey. If you can't get rid of them, does that mean they will go crazy in the team at any time? You still don't know how to learn your lesson." "Enough." Emo Yin suddenly spoke up. "Ignore them. We'll set off immediately and head to Rice City first." Chapter 1337. Captain, it's bad. Several hundred to 1,000 more zombies have arrived outside. They're closing in on us. The Rice City team leader's expression changed, and he hastily grabbed Callie's wrist. He took the token from her hand and waved it in front of Emo Yin and the others. "Although I don't want to do this, this is Rice City Base's token. Seeing this token is equivalent to seeing the city lord. I order you to hand over all the supplies you've gathered." Everyone rolled their eyes at the sky in unison. "Hey, punk, are you here to be funny?" Brother Axe looked at the level 10 mystic cultivator in front of him and snorted disdainfully. These people were definitely crazy. Otherwise, why would they want to snatch supplies from them when they were facing a formidable enemy? A few shrimp soldiers and crab generals dared to spout nonsense in front of their 100-man team of great mystic cultivators. Who exactly gave them such courage? Emo Yin didn't waste her breath on him and directly fished out a black token from her sleeve. She waved it in front of the team leader. The MO Capital Fortification has confiscated all of Jiaozhong base's supplies. If there's anything, have your city lord talk to me. The Rise City team leader's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Of course, he recognized the token in Mo Yin's hand with a dragon claw imprinted on it. That was the highest Mo Capital base's token. Puffing sounds came from outside the crumbling earth wall, and a dozen zombies appeared in front of them at the same time. Go, 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 go. Go! The Rise City team leader could only temporarily give up on collecting supplies and lead the team in running. Liang Qingqing couldn't resist snickering. She shook her head and said, "Where did they find this weirdo? How can he be the captain like this?" No wonder the entire team was almost wiped out. Let's go. Mo Yin pulled Arbor's small hand and also led the team out of the collapsed city lord estate. Along the way, everyone frequently looked back and used mystic energy to dispose of the zombies that wanted to approach. They had already encountered tens of thousands of zombies before, so these several hundred to 1,000 zombies were simply a piece of cake to them. In order to dispose of the zombies as quickly as possible, the 100-man team automatically formed 20 small teams. Every 5 people formed a team and cooperated to kill the remaining zombies. Fighting and running at the same time, they quickly left the vicinity of the city lord's mansion. That woman called Carly has been poisoned. I have to find an opportunity to deal with her. Liang Qingqing extinguished one of the corpse puppets behind Situ Yi with a burst of profound energy. With a sweeping kick, she swept the other corpse puppet away. Dozens of profound energy simultaneously struck the corpse puppet's head on the ground, turning its head into a hornet's nest. Boom! A streak of lightning flashed across the horizon. Everyone raised their heads and looked over. It's gonna rain. Arbor tightened his grip on Mo Yin's hand. He had a bad premonition. Do you think they'll do it again? Very likely. We have to get to Rice City base before the storm. Mo Yin called out and summoned the Golden Dragon's 7th yin. The members of the 100-man team immediately lined up and jumped onto the back of the Golden Dragon. A few members of the Rice City team cried out excitedly, "Wow, it's their mystical beast. Their mystical beast is actually a legendary dragon." "Oh my God, you're wrong. It's not a mystical beast. It should be a sacred beast, a golden dragon. Quick, quick, let's follow them. This golden dragon's speed must be very fast. We'll definitely be able to return to the city before the sky turns dark." Just as the members of the Rice City team took a step, they heard a dragon's roar and the golden dragon swung its tail. Chapter 1338. The Rice City team members! ! These people actually abandoned them and ran straight back to Rice City. Damn it! Callie touched the wound on the back of her neck and said to the team leader, "Zhonghua, even if they reach the entrance of Rice City, they might not be able to enter." "That's right." Another person cried out indignantly. He turned around and suddenly roared in shock. Suddenly, he was grabbed and pressed down by a zombie that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Bam! The man and zombie fell to the ground like a human pyramid, causing a series of screams. Callie hurriedly jumped onto a mystic beast summoned by the team leader, Zhonghua. The two of them yelled at the other team members, "Let's go." There were less than 10 people left. They hurriedly abandoned the team member who was being pressed down by the zombie and hurriedly fled. "Save me, save." The member of the Rice City team managed to pull out a bloodied and broken palm from the gap between the zombie's bites. He gradually fell weakly to the ground. Arbor sat beside Mo Yin and looked at the chaos below. Then he blocked out the screams of the Rice City team members. "These people are really funny." Arbor shook his head and said, "That team leader, in what way did he look like a truly responsible and capable leader? Going on a mission was simply a joke." Mo Yin reached out and stroked his waist. He squeezed gently and said, "Jojo, I'm just worried about you." "What do I have to worry about?" Arbor turned to look at her. "But speaking of which, after this battle, I realized that my body is still quite weak. When facing a spirit realm expert, the weakness of my body was revealed." "Silly girl." Mo Yin smiled and shook her head. "After all, you haven't broken through to the spirit realm. The strength of your body naturally can't be compared to a spirit realm expert. There must be a way to improve it. She looked at him with bright eyes. For example, she could refine a few body-forging pills suitable for her. Or, Master, I have a bone-forging pill here. Do you want to try it? At this moment, Chocho suddenly interrupted her thoughts and communicated with her spiritually. Master, this bone-forging pill is a little fierce. You might feel uncomfortable for a while after taking it. But after 3 days, your bone marrow will definitely be greatly improved. If it's so effective, why didn't you give it to me before? Chocho mumbled. How could Chocho take it out in the past? Furthermore, with Master's previous cultivation, he wouldn't have been able to withstand such a powerful bone-forging pill. In that case, Arbor thought for a moment and said, well, let's talk about it when we get back to the capital. There was no need to mention Little Seven's flying speed. She brought everyone to the entrance of Rice City in the evening. Contrary to leader Zhong Hua's expectations, Rice City didn't stop them from entering the city. In fact, when the Crown Prince revealed his identity, the guards were so shocked that they rushed in to report. When Rice City's city lord heard that His Highness the Crown Prince had personally come, he was so scared that he pissed his pants. He hurriedly led everyone to welcome him. When City Lord Sun led everyone into the City Lord Manor and was ordering people to serve their meals with an obsequious smile, the rain that had been struggling for a long time finally came pouring down. Mo Yin walked to the window and lifted the curtain with her slender fingers to look outside. Arbor quickly walked to her side and stuck out his little head to take a look, but he suddenly grabbed his little hand. Arbor blinked and asked curiously, "What did you see?" Chapter 1339. No, the rain was quite heavy this time, and the chilly drizzle seeped into the window. A silver-threaded cloak appeared in Mo Yin's hand, and he draped it over Qiao Mu before pulling her to the table to sit down. I'll go out to take a look later. Stay inside and don't come out. However, Arbor shook her head and said, I also want to go out and take a look. Mo Yin paused as he held her hand. Just as he was about to speak, there was a sudden knock on the door. He turned around and dryly said, Come in. A string of servants walked in while carrying plates of food. They bowed submissively and respectfully before placing the food on the table one by one. Your Highness, do you have any other orders? Mo Yin waved his hand to dismiss them before holding Arbor's small hand and saying, It's raining heavily, so I'll go take a look first. I'll call you out if there's any movement. You were injured today. He pulled her into his arms and said softly, Don't make me worry anymore. Arbor pursed her small mouth and nodded helplessly. Stay here and eat. Mo Yin grasped her small hand and planted a light kiss on the corner of her forehead. Afterwards, he let go and smiled faintly at her. After standing up, he quickly walked outside. The moment Prince Mo left, he called out to the next room. Duan Yu, what are you waiting for? Duan Yu heaved a long sigh and flashed to his side. You never call me when there's good news, but you always bring me with you when there's bad news. I say, where are you guys going? I'm going too. Situ, he also hastily dashed out of the room and caught up with the two. Arbor propped up her chin with one hand and picked up her chopsticks to poke at the dishes. She casually moved her chopsticks a few times before glancing at the rain outside the window again. Actually, that small injury of hers had Arbor gently lifted a corner of her clothes and looked at the smooth patch of skin on the left side of her waist. She was also a bit puzzled. It was obvious that the old witch's fire dragon tail had swept across this area before, but before she could apply any medicine on it, the wound had mysteriously disappeared by itself. She had asked Chocho if this was the effect of its wood spirit's endless growth. However, Chocho also felt that this was a little strange. It said that even wood spirits couldn't repair themselves so quickly. At the very least, the wound would have to wait until tomorrow to heal. But now, without her knowledge, the wound had healed on its own. In addition, Arbor did not feel anything wrong with his internal organs that were injured by the black double-headed crow's sound wave. He should have been cured as well. That's pretty weird, all right? She propped up her chin, picked up a piece of braised pork that looked pretty good, and stuffed it into her mouth. She chewed for a while, then frowned and spat it out. The meat was dry and unpalatable. The moment he ate it, he could tell that the ingredients were not fresh anymore. But in this day and age, it was good to be able to eat and drink like the mayor. Arbor had never been picky about food, but this red braised meat was too disgusting. She picked a few vegetables with her chopsticks, and after eating, she felt a little sleepy. After a few consecutive battles today, she had used up a lot of her profound energy. She originally wanted to lie down casually on the bed and continue to pay attention to Yin and the rest's movements in the middle of the night. Who would have thought that she would actually fall asleep carelessly? She slept all the way until dawn and did not even wake up in the middle of it. When she woke up, it was already late in the morning. When Arbor sat up from the bed, she had a dazed look on her face. It was only when she heard the door creak open that she turned her head around in a daze and looked at the two servant girls who came in through the door. Chapter 1340. Didn't she say that she would personally subdue the nightcaw birds? How would she fall asleep? Arbor's short-circuited string was pulled back, and the two maids also came forward while shouting, "Crown Princess! Crown Princess, you're awake." Arbor looked at them with a blank expression and nodded mechanically. "Where's the Crown Prince?" "Crown Princess, you don't know. Last night, His Highness the Crown Prince, together with 3 young masters with extraordinary skills, killed 8 strange birds." When a young maid mentioned this, her face was flushed red, as if she had killed those 8 nightcaw birds. Another person cupped her face and said with a love-struck expression, "Heavens, such a big commotion in the middle of the night last night had awakened everyone in the city." The heroic bearing of the 4 young masters on the city gate tower was simply too impressive. Arbor looked at them expressionlessly. "I'm asking you where the Crown Prince is. What the hell are you blabbering about?" Arbor got off the bed and ran to wash his face and rinse his mouth. "Crown Princess, do you know how powerful His Highness is? His Highness broke the wings of that strange bird that was cawing with his bare hands and pulled it down from the sky." That's right, that's right. That zither young master is really good. Are you guys done being love-struck?" Arbor grabbed one of the young girls who was holding her face and slapped his head heavily on her head. "I'm asking you where the Crown Prince is." This voice was soft and crisp, and the sound almost broke through the 9 heavens that, after half a cup of tea, the maid pouted and held her head that hurt from the slap. She led Arbor all the way to the back garden of the city lord's mansion. After yesterday's rainstorm, the rain washed the ground clean. Lustrous water droplets hung on the treetops and branches. At a glance, the world seemed to have been washed a bit brighter. After bringing Arbor to a small moon-shaped arched door, the maidservant pursed her lips and poked her head inside. His Highness ordered that no one is to disturb him. He and the other young masters are inside. Arbor rolled up his small sleeves and turned his head to point at the many women hanging on the outer wall. He asked in shock, "What are they doing? Fuck, are these women crazy? Why are some of them holding banners in their hands?" "You came to the city lord's mansion to demand payment? What debt collector?" Crown Princess, you don't know." At the mention of this topic, the young maidservant's voice became softer and softer. With a flushed face, she said in a love-struck manner, "Last night, His Highness the Crown Prince and the 3 young masters rushed up the tallest tower of our rice city like the wind and fought a fierce battle with those strange birds. His skills are really too cool, okay?" Arbor raised his hand and slapped the back of the maidservant's head. "Get to the point. They saved all the citizens in the city and are now the best husband candidates in the hearts of all the young girls in Rice City. They have now been conferred as Rice City's 4 great handsome men by the girls and have successfully leaped to the top of our Rice City's 10 great handsome men ranking." Arbor snickered, but soon after, her little stoic face tensed up. And then she freaking still couldn't hold it in and started laughing uproariously. The maidservant leading the way was a bit dumbfounded. She stared at her blankly and asked, "Crown Princess, are you unhappy that His Highness is so popular?" This smile was probably a fake one, right? Otherwise, how could she smile so stiffly? It was like a fake smile. She was probably fuming mad on the inside. "Arbor, Rice City's 4 great handsome men, ha 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 ha. What a great honor. Chapter 1341. Arbor's figure flashed, brushing past the maidservant as she walked towards the small arched door. The 2 city lords' estate guards guarding the door jumped in fright and hastily shouted, "Who goes there?" When they saw that it was Arbor, they hastily cupped their hands at her. Greetings to the crown princess. This humble one did not see clearly that it was the crown princess. His Highness has instructed that unrelated people are not permitted to approach this rear garden. Arbor waved her hand and directly ran toward a place in the rear garden, following their auras. She ran past the rockery and winding corridor, and when her figure brushed past the vicinity, she involuntarily slowed down. Before her was a scene of withering branches and yellow leaves. But the 4 people in this scene truly made one unable to look away. The 4 great beauties of Rice City were currently sitting under a half-withered tree, sipping tea and chatting. Mo Yin and Duan Yu were both dressed in snow-white robes, each holding a jade cup. Situ, he was dressed in black, and he was fanning himself from time to time. Eldest young Sir Chin was dressed in an enchanting purple robe, and together, they truly gave off a picturesque feeling. It felt like even under a withered tree, they were also ethereal. Situ, he was the first to see Arbor running over, and his eyes brightened as he stood up and walked toward her. "Little junior sister, you're awake." When Arbor saw him, she instantly recalled the title of the 4 great beauties of Rice City and couldn't hold it in anymore. This country bumpkin title was truly too hilarious. She pointed at him and tried her best to keep a stoic face, but she instantly burst into laughter. In Situ Yi's shock, the folding fan in his hand fell to the ground with a clatter. Duan Yu flashed over and excitedly ran to her side. "Jojo, why are you smiling at Situ Yi and not me?" Just as he was about to hook her sleeve, Mo Yin swiftly ran to his wifey's side and anxiously carried her over. He reached out to rub her small face and sternly said, "You're not allowed to laugh." Vexing. How could she laugh so happily in front of another man? He reached out to caress her little face again. "Laugh when we get home." Xiao Mu retracted her smile at once, but when she met Mo Yin's phoenix eyes, she couldn't hold back her laughter again. Mo Yin's eyes couldn't resist smiling, and he reached out to pull his wifey into his embrace and pat her. "What is it? Quickly tell me, which idiot made my Xiao Xiao so happy?" "Lien, you've become the number 1 of the top 10 handsome men in Rice City. Other than that, the 4 of you have also been crowned as the 4 great beauties of Rice City." Arbor laughed out loud. Eldest Chin's eyes flickered as he looked at Arbor. He pointed at himself with his folding fan. "We?" Arbor nodded repeatedly. He couldn't restrain the smile in the corner of his eyes. He looked at Mo Lien with curved eyes and said, "I'm a little curious. I wonder what the other 6 handsome men in Rice City look like." "Alas, isn't that simple? Just get someone to bring them here." Situ Yi was a clown, and he casually added, causing the other 3 to glare repeatedly at him. Situ, fuck. He was indirectly admitting that he was one of the 10 great beauties of Rice City. "Let's talk about that strange bird from yesterday instead," Emolian said softly as he rubbed his wifey's face. Arbor looked at him and said, while stifling his laughter, "There's a large group of women outside hanging on the wall to look. They want to witness the elegance of the 4 great beauties of Rice City." Eldest Chin choked on his tea. Duan Yu took a deep breath and waved his hand to shout, "Someone come. Go invite the people on the 10 great beauties of Rice City here." Chapter 1342. The original 10 people on the ranking list of Rice City's 10 great handsome men were all invited into the city lord's estate's back garden. This action immediately caused the girls hanging on the outer wall to shriek and shout crazily for a while. However, when Mo Yin and the others saw the true appearances of Rice City's 10 great handsome men, their handsome faces nearly contorted from anger. These 10 people dared to rank with them as Rice City's 10 great handsome men with their appearances? Ah, poo poo poo. They weren't some Rice City's 10 great handsome men. Among the 10 people, Other than the delicate scholar with his nose in the air who looked like a dog, the other 9 were simply ugly and unbearable to look at. However, seeing how Jojo was so amused that she couldn't stop laughing, they didn't feel like bickering with these repulsive people. After admiring them for several minutes, Yin waved her hand and had the people chase these handsome men out. Not long after, the royal guards ran in and excitedly reported that those young girls hanging on the wall had all gone to chase after Rice City's 10 great handsome men with amorous feelings. Situ spat out a mouthful of tea and then pretended to leisurely wipe the corner of his mouth. Cough. It looks like our MO Kingdom Capital's 10 Great Handsome Men ranking is the true ranking without any exaggeration. Eldest young, Sir Chin, shook his head while fanning himself. Right. I'd rather be ranked on the same level as Second Chin. I don't want to be ranked on the same level as those repulsive melons. Duan Yu quickly poured himself a cup of tea to calm his shock. Don't you guys agree? Situ, and the others nodded repeatedly, expressing great agreement. When eldest Chin turned around, he discovered that the little stoic was no longer smiling. She had switched back to her original stoic face and was expressionlessly looking at them. Why did he feel like this child was so funny? Let's talk about what happened last night. You guys showed off your skills and charmed all the unmarried young girls in Rice City. It was such a big commotion, yet she fell asleep. Thinking about it now, she really wrung her hands. The 4 of them twitched their mouths. We did slaughter 8 night caw birds. Yin held her small hand and said, however, we didn't obtain any more useful information. We couldn't find any clues from those night caw birds. China chuckled. It's not a secret if it can be found so easily. The reason why a secret was because it was well hidden. How could he reveal himself so easily? Everyone was speechless. Arbor tilted his head and glanced at Yin. Don't worry. Just instruct the various fortifications to make preparations. As for the future, let's talk about it later. Yin nodded. All right then. We'll leave this afternoon and return to Guanlan. Arbor's paralyzed little face instantly revealed a lively teasing expression, which fell into Yin's eyes and almost stunned him. Aren't you going to stay here and enjoy the glory of being one of the top 10 most handsome men in Rice City for a few more days? Thank you. Situ speechlessly added. Right now, I feel that the MO Kingdom's 10 great handsome men are more suitable for me. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. How dare you stop me? He must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. A familiar voice was heard, and they all exchanged glances. Judging from this voice, it seemed to be the leader of that Rice City team, the one called Zhonghua. Situ poured another cup of tea for them and looked up at the arch door, only to see that leader leading his team over in a flurry. Chapter 1343. The few of them exchanged glances and raised their heads to see Zhonghua, the leader of the group, charging over noisily with 9 people. We actually let you enter the city without a hitch. The leader glared at Arbor's group. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Eldest young, Sir Chin, tapped the folding fan in his hand. You're not so naive as to think that we're still waiting in line outside the city, right? You, what exactly do you want to say? Situ, asked the leader curiously. Zhonghua. City Lord's son hastily rushed over upon receiving the news and looked awkwardly at his eldest nephew. Zhonghua, don't be rude to His Highness the Crown Prince's group. Leader Zhonghua was taken aback, and his gaze shot towards Yin's group again. It turned out that the group from the MO Kingdom Capital really had such a powerful background. However, he was unable to swallow his previous indignation. Uncle, I didn't want to say it at first, but the team that the Crown Prince brought was truly too much. Ignoring the incessant looks that his uncle, City Lord's son, was sending him, Leader Zhonghua rambled on endlessly. Uncle, you don't know how infuriating they are. Not only did they plunder all of Jiaozhong Base's rations, but they didn't bring us along with them. They actually didn't bring us along on the return trip and left us at Jiaozhong Base. We were almost besieged by hundreds of zombies. Didn't your Rice City team head to Jiaozhong Base for a cleanup mission? Arbor interrupted him and said indifferently, "If you can't even clean up several hundred zombies, then what are you going to do? Do you want to take a stroll?" "You." The leader was enraged. "Zhonghua," City Lord's son reprimanded. "Don't be rude in front of the crown princess. You brought more than 200 people out, but less than 10 have returned. Are the lives of your teammates not worth their lives?" Arbor glanced indifferently at Callie, who was behind the leader. "Grab her." What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" Two black-clothed shadow guards immediately appeared next to Callie and pinned her arms behind her back. "Deal with her." "No, you can't deal with me? What right do you have to punish me?" Carly widened her eyes in horror and kept struggling in the hands of the two secret guards. "You're talking about qualifications with me when your infection period will end in less than 4 hours and you're about to mutate?" Xiaomu looked at her exasperatedly. Then, he turned to look at Zhonghua. "I think you need treatment for your brain. You brought something that could explode at any time back to the city and placed it in the City Lord's mansion. Do you want Rice City to become the second Jiaozhong base?" "No, that's not true." Zhonghua was a little anxious. He turned to look at City Lord Sun's incredulous eyes and hurriedly explained, "Uncle, don't listen to her nonsense. She doesn't know anything. As for Carly's injuries, we've already contained them. With Aishan around, there won't be any problems." The foolish girl named Shang bit her finger as she smiled at Duanyu. Her smile made Duanyu's hair stand on end, and he shrank back into the group. "Are you stupid? There won't be any problems. Then why did that man in your group suddenly jump out to bite people and mutate?" Liang Qingqing couldn't bear it any longer and bellowed at Zhonghua. "Zhonghua, you can't be that muddle-headed, right?" City Lord Sun looked at Carly in horror and involuntarily shrank back. "Uncle, nothing will happen at all right?" Zhonghua retorted impatiently. Chapter 1344. Capture them all. Mo Lian's frigid words stupefied the remaining members of Rice City's team. "Take them all out for inspection. If there are any problems, deal with them on the spot." Prince Mo's icy voice caused the hearts of the Rice City team members to tremble violently as they felt a chill in their bones. "And you?" The Crown Prince turned around and pointed at City Lord Sun, who was trembling incessantly like a quail. "Appointing people based on nepotism. Don't you know how much this nephew of yours is worth? You actually let him be the leader of Rice City's team and lead a group of people to their deaths?" City Lord Sun only felt that misfortune was upon him, and his body went limp as he knelt on the ground with a thud. He repeatedly begged for mercy. Your Highness, please quell your anger. From now on, you are no longer the City Lord of Rice City's fortifications. Immediately send people to take over all matters here and complete them by today." "Yes." Huifeng bowed and immediately strode out the door, leading people to take care of these matters. City Lord Sun collapsed on the ground, dumbstruck. Everything had been fine up until just now. It was over. Everything was over. His nephew, Zhonghua, was also completely stupefied at this moment. When he came to his senses, it was as if he had been injected with chicken blood, and he immediately started making a fuss and yelling, "You can't do this, you can't. What does this have to do with my uncle? You are using public office to avenge private wrongs." Eldest young Sir Qin slapped Captain Zhonghua's head with his fan and winked at him with a smile. "Do I need to use public office to avenge private wrongs against you?" He shook his head and walked out, thinking that this fellow's brain was seriously lacking. The farce was quickly dealt with. The new City Lord who replaced City Lord Sun was a swift and decisive character, and he was currently furiously dealing with the mess left behind by his predecessor. It was fine if he didn't deal with it, but once he did, he got a shock. The Crown Prince's prophecy really came true. This City Lord Sun truly appointed people based on nepotism. The family's 7 aunts and 8 aunts who had been separated by 8 lifetimes had more or less basked in City Lord Sun's glory. There were many drawbacks, but the new City Lord was quite nimble. With the Crown Prince holding the fort, the new City Lord waved his machete and cut the Gordian knot. Mo Yin and her group, who had originally planned to leave this afternoon, were delayed for an entire night because of the replacement of Rice City's City Lord. On the second day, everyone bade farewell to Rice City and flew to the Mo kingdom capital, Guanlan City. Moreover, under the leadership of the various city lords, the various fortifications of the entire Mo kingdom capital, large and small, also began to strictly guard and reconstruct the water region. While flying high in the sky, he saw that the nearest water vein had completely turned black. Arbor's heart skipped a beat. If Xiao Shui woke up, he could try to improve the water quality here. But now, for the time being, there was nothing he could do. 3 days later, everyone returned to the Mo kingdom capital uneventfully and smoothly. The crown prince's horse did not stop to rest. Upon returning to the Mo kingdom capital, the first thing he did was to order people to surround the fan residence. The crime was to assassinate the crown prince in Jiaozhong base. This was a very serious crime. The entire fan clan was greatly shaken, and they were surrounded by the dragon saliva guards overnight. Not even a fly could escape. The captain of the dragon saliva guard, Yu Xiu, personally led a team into the fan clan to search for Fan Xiuha. However, Fan Xiuha had long fled without a trace with Fan Gu. Family head Fan wanted to cry, but had no tears to shed as he dealt with the huge mess Fan Xiuha left behind. All day long, he begged people to help him mediate. He sent out many good things, but the results were minimal. Chapter 1345. When Arbor returned home, Wei Ziqin nagged him a lot. She said that neither of them was reliable. The wedding was just a few days away, but he was still nowhere to be seen. It made her anxious and angry. Arbor returned home at night. Except for Qiao Zhongbong and his wife, no one else was alerted. The next morning, when the family was having breakfast, second uncle, Xiao Hu, and Xiao Mu found out that she was back. This was the first time Arbor saw second aunt run after second uncle's wedding. She looked 24 or 25 years old. She looked smart and capable as she walked with the wind. This is Jojo. Second uncle had a smile on his face. It seemed that he had been living well these days. Rin stepped forward, took Arbor's hand, and gave him a greeting gift. Then, she smiled and exchanged greetings with Arbor. Only then did the family sit down and have breakfast happily. These days, Rin had adapted to the rich breakfast of Qiao Mu. In addition to white porridge, red bean porridge, and meat buns, there were also 4 kinds of pastries for breakfast today. The Qiao family didn't have so many rigid rules when eating. The family chatted as they ate, just like an ordinary family. This made Rin like the atmosphere of this family very much. Eldest uncle and sister-in-law were kind people. Her husband was a few years older than her and was considerate and honest. After getting along with her stepson these days, they also got along very well. Therefore, Rin really had nothing to be dissatisfied with. She was even very grateful to her mother for having a good eye and choosing such a good family for her. Sister-in-law, Jojo's wedding is just a few days away. Sister-in-law, you're very busy. Remember to ask me for help. Although I haven't been married for long, I can still help with some chores. Rin said with a smile. Okay. I'm really busy these days. It's best if you can help me. Wei Ziqin nodded happily. She now saw that this sister-in-law was good in every aspect and couldn't find any fault with her. Madam Rin happily agreed. Shaolin stirred the red bean congee in her bowl with a spoon and muttered softly, "Big sister, you'll be living in the palace from now on. I don't know how long it will be before we meet again." Qiao Zhongbong couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth when he heard this. Ahem, other than the period when your sister is cultivating in seclusion, when else can she be idle at home? Shaolin thought about it and agreed. Her little face relaxed as she giggled and said, "Elder sister, then I'll go to the palace to play with you every few days." Arbor nodded. Wei Ziqin couldn't help but laugh. You're still looking for your sister every few days. Even if your sister doesn't find you annoying, your brother-in-law will. Shaolin pursed her lips. I'm looking for my sister. Why will my brother-in-law be annoyed? When the time comes, we can just ask my brother-in-law for a pass. We don't need him to lead the way. Wei Ziqin was both amused and annoyed as she poked her daughter's forehead. Arbor looked at the mother and daughter pair with a faint smile in her eyes. In the past few days, did Zhou Yuan's family come to cause trouble again? Arbor asked absent-mindedly. Xiao Zhongbong shook his head. They came the day after you left. After I sent people to chase them out, they never came again. Hey, but speaking of which, Jojo, do you still remember the little fatty from the richest family in our village, Zhou Tao? Arbor stared blankly. Father, you saw him? Of course. Xiao Zhongbong sighed when he mentioned this. He's now a servant of Zhou Yuan's family. I even saw him a few days ago. Wei Ziqin sighed. He's as skinny as a monkey. Chapter 1346. He's like a monkey. He's so skinny that it's scary. He was such a fat baby back then. Wei Ziqin shook her head. Arbor didn't think too much about it. Zhou Tao was already a thing of the past. She took revenge on him for kicking her down the slope when she was young, a few days after her rebirth. If her father hadn't mentioned him, she would have forgotten about this person. She remembered that when she was on the way from Shijiao City to the capital, she had encountered this person who had gone crazy from hunger and raised his knife to kill people. He was a sedan bearer before, and now he was a servant. It seemed like his life hadn't been easy. However, he was considered smart to be able to survive until now as a normal person in this chaotic world. Now that she heard his name, he was just a stranger to her. She didn't feel sad or happy, and her emotions didn't fluctuate. After the meal, Arbor returned to her room. The Ministry of Rites had sent people to deliver wedding clothes and jewelry, and she needed to try them on one by one. However, after trying them on for a short while, the young lady kicked off her shoes and lazily went back to bed. When Xiao Yao entered the room and saw her little crown princess' lazy appearance, she couldn't help but be amused and annoyed at the same time. Crown Princess, you've only tried on a few pieces of jewelry. Why are you lying down already? Have you tried on the wedding clothes? I've tried them. Arbor scrambled up from the bed and looked at her with bright eyes. Xiao Yao, if you marry my brother Xiao Hu, you'll be my sister-in-law in the future. Xiao Yao glared at her with a red face. Nonsense. How is it nonsense? The little crown princess pursed her lips. How about this? We'll first get used to how we address each other from now on. I'll call you eldest sister-in-law. How about you call me eldest sister-in-law? Xiao Yao was so embarrassed that her face burned. She rolled her eyes at her, took the wedding dress, and walked out. Crown Princess, you've lost a lot of weight recently. I'll ask them to change the waist of this wedding dress. With just a few words, Xiao Yao, the chatterbox, was scared away. Arbor cheered and lay down on the bed. His little hands and feet spread out, and he didn't move at all. In reality, he was talking to the little tree in his mind. Master, Master, do you want to take a bone-forging pill now? I spent a lot of effort to get it from the main planet. In 3 days, I guarantee that your body's toughness will reach a whole new level. As if I believe you. Arbor shook his head. You said 3 days, so it's definitely more than 3 days. I'm getting married in 4 days. We can't allow anything to go wrong. If she ate the bone-forging pill now, if she didn't finish forging on the day of the wedding, wouldn't she be in trouble? Could it be that he still had to carry her out of seclusion? She couldn't care less about the dignity of the royal family. She didn't want her little face anymore. There was no need to rush. She could wait for a while before forging. The little tree said, Hey, Master, what if someone comes to make trouble on the day of the wedding? Once you finish forging your body, you'll have a higher chance of winning. Forge now. If the little tree was in front of her now, she would definitely give it a few slaps on the head. She was going to get married, not to fight. Besides, the crown prince wasn't just for show. Who would dare to make trouble at the crown prince's wedding? All right, don't encourage me to do something unreliable. Arbor made the final decision. Let me tell you, I don't have much, but my main strength is that I'm very reliable. The little tree, are you sure that's your strength? You scammer, go do what you're supposed to do. Don't bother me. Arbor was lazing on the bed and waved his arm in disdain. Chapter 1347. She suddenly thought of something. Before the sapling retreated, Arbor asked, Where's the egg? How has it been these few days? Not too comfortable. Speaking of this, the sapling was a little angry. She didn't know where that egg came from, but it was always like a big boss. The moment it came, it occupied the frigid pool and didn't let anyone in except for that baboon. The egg enslaved me. The sapling was indignant. He made me build a fence around the frigid pool for him. He even hung a sign called Phoenix Garden or something. Arbor was speechless. Why did it sound like a brothel? The frigid pool is useful to him? Of course it's useful. The spiritual energy in the pool is dense, and I suspect that black spirit jade might be buried there. Xiao Mu scrambled up from the bed. Are you serious? Otherwise, why would he be so eager to occupy the frigid pool these few days? And not let anyone in? It made sense. Arbor felt that the sapling's analysis was right. She had previously suspected that there might be another world under the pool. Otherwise, where did the frigid star sand come from? Master, go in and kick the egg out now. Forget it. Arbor collapsed back onto the bed. Let him stay for a while. He's also pitiful. After following her for so long, he was still just an egg. Are little water, little earth, and little snake awake? No, the sapling said angrily. When his companions woke up, the first thing he would do was to get them to beat up the egg, the sapling thought secretly. An egg actually made his little master's heart soften. This wasn't a good sign. Master, master, do you like the egg more than Xiao? The sapling asked pitifully. No, Arbor stiffly replied. Don't think too much. She liked big and fierce beasts like the chestnut, and she also liked the snow leopard that she summoned for Mo Lien. But what was the use of liking them? They weren't hers. She only had cute things by her side. So angry, she didn't want to talk to Little Tree anymore. She turned over and rolled herself into the quilt, planning to have a good afternoon nap. However, the Little Tree was still nagging. Master Silver, has your talisman master level increased? Yes, I'm a yellow rank great symbol master now. Arbor was somewhat happy when he thought of this. Occasionally, she would wonder where the golden talisman jade tome that changed her life came from. She hugged the blanket and rolled around. I'm going to sleep. Don't disturb me. Master Silver, does that mean you could draw yellow level talismans? Of course, let me tell you. Arbor suddenly slapped his little head. Xiao, I drew a god-inviting talisman, but I've never used it before. Go ahead and use it. Xiao simply ran out of Paradise Planet and turned into a little tray ant, squatting on her shoulder. Master, this god-inviting talisman sounds really powerful. I also feel that it should be quite impressive. Xiaomu responded uncertainly. With a flick of her finger, an ebony talisman appeared in her hand. With a light swipe of her finger, she activated the talisman. An invisible talisman energy spread out and burst into her body. The two of them widened their round eyes and held their breaths as they waited. 0.5 minutes later, there was nothing. 15 minutes later, there was still nothing. The two of them stared at each other with their watery eyes. It's okay, Master. Maybe the Supremes are busy right now and don't have time to come to the lower star sector to play. Don't be discouraged, Master. Arbor, Master invites you to the living room. Chapter 1348. Arbor's heart ached at the thought of wasting a deity-inviting talisman that she painstakingly drew. She walked out listlessly and grumpily asked, Who's here? It's the Mu family's 7th master. It's him again. Anger surfaced in Arbor's eyes. She hadn't even had the time to settle the score with him. Yet he came running here on his own. There was a path to heaven, but he refused to take it and insisted on barging into hell. Kill him. A little poisonous person in Jojo's heart flaunted her prowess and hooted. She slammed the door shut behind her with a bang. Inside Miss Xiao's boudoir, a warm ray of sunlight slowly flowed onto the dressing table. As the little fellow walked, the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. This talisman patrician family simply had a grudge with her in her past life. Nothing good would come out of running into them. That Fangu was clearly from their family. Otherwise, how could she possibly have something like a teleportation talisman matrix? So infuriating. The Mu family's 7th master actually dared to appear in front of her after doing such a vicious thing. The angry little thing entered the living room with its defensive barrier activated, and everyone was stunned by its sudden appearance. Mu Jingrui's eyes flickered. Jojo, what are you doing? I'm going to beat you to death. The little fellow extended her hand, and a handful of attack talismans appeared in her palm. Come out. She couldn't fight in the living room and break the furniture. You, Mu Jingrui's lackey, Old Bai, angrily looked at Arbor. Absolutely impudent. Jojo, Xiao Zhongbong also called out to his daughter rather awkwardly. Come back. Don't make a scene. What? You dare to do it, but don't dare to admit it? Arbor looked up and waved at Mu Jingrui. Come out. What did I do? Mu Jingrui calmly walked out of the Qiao family's main hall and arrived at a small empty space in front of the door. You harbored a grudge against me when I refused to return to the Mu family with you last time. I went to Jiaozhong base to carry out a mission, and you sent someone to kill me. Do you have proof? Mu Jingrui raised his brows and looked at her with a spurious smile. Does the teleportation array count as evidence? That middle-aged woman called Fangu has the teleportation glyph formation of your divine land's Mu family. Arbor sneered. Impossible. Mu Jingrui stubbornly shook his head. Not everyone has a transportation talisman matrix. Even in our divine province's Mu family, there are only a few people who can obtain a transportation talisman matrix, including you. Arbor gave him a cold look. Senior White was puzzled as he listened from the side, and after a long time, he finally understood. He was immediately angered to the point of stomping his feet and jumping up as he roared furiously. You little bastard, are you doubting our seventh master? Arbor glanced at him and stomped on the ground as well. However, her stomp caused the stone slabs on the ground to roll up and line up into a long line, aiming for Lao Bai's face. Old White. Mu Jingrui's expression froze. He immediately threw out 24 defensive jade talismans that surrounded Old White. Arbor stuck a teleportation talisman on himself. Damn it, he actually teleported to the back of the house in an instant. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly as she jumped out from behind the house. She took out a ferrule from her conscience and swung it at Mu Jingrui's head. Mu Jingrui couldn't help but laugh bitterly. This child's prejudice against him was gradually deepening. He didn't even know how to properly communicate with her anymore. Spiritual power trembled around him, and he immediately repelled the little fellow's ferrule. Chapter 1349. This fellow only used a bit of spiritual energy to send her ruler flying. Arbor could only twist her body in midair and tightly grab onto her ruler. Her toes lightly tapped the air as she flipped and landed in front of Mu Jingrui. Jojo, listen to me, all right? Mu Jingrui helplessly lowered his voice. You're long-winded. Arbor impatiently glared at him and took a step back. Don't come to my house again in the future. Seeing you guys annoys me to death. You darn girl, how can you not know what's good for you? Old Bai was also enraged. Do you think we have to shave off our heads to invite you home? We're doing this for your own good. Don't forget that your surname is Mu. You're a child of the Mu family of the divine continent. For my own good, for my own good. Whether or not they're sincerely doing this for my own good, I can tell from their eyes. These two big liars still want to deceive me? Scram! Arbor kicked straight at Old Bai's mouth. In his fury, Old Bai crossed his arms in front of him to protect himself. Xiao Mu's kick landed on his bulging arm, and her feet were frozen in place by the spiritual energy he was emitting. It was as if her feet were glued to his arm, and she was unable to pull them off for a while. Arbor angrily glared with her round eyes. She fished out a handful of poisonous powder from her sleeve and was about to scatter it to smoke the old man. Old Bai's eyes suddenly flashed, and he abruptly pushed her outwards. Old Bai! Mu Jingrui cried out in alarm. Old Bai actually used 70% of his strength to repel Jojo. This was bad. Arbor was pushed and jolted by this old fellow's spiritual energy. She hastily added 3 more water spiritual barriers outside her protective barrier. Even so, she still felt the chi and blood in her chest churning from the spiritual energy rushing at her. Her small body had long been uncontrollably sent flying by Old Bai. Her back crashed straight into a tree in the courtyard, and the tree immediately bent and fell to the ground with a crack. This old fellow was really quite strong. Looking at the situation, his great spiritual master rank was probably above the middle-aged woman, Fangu. Stinky girl, you need to know that there's always someone better out there. Don't be a frog in a well and be ignorant. Senior White laughed coldly and said, Our divine prefecture's Mu clan is willing to take you back, yet you actually dare to make all sorts of excuses. Why don't you think about the consequences? If you really offend the Mu family of the Divine Land, what do you think your adoptive parents will do? Old White. Mu Jingrui was anxious to interrupt Old Bai's speech, but Old Bai waved his hand and interrupted him instead. Seventh Master, this little girl has been spoiled rotten. She clearly doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Just treat it as me advising her on behalf of her biological parents. As soon as he finished speaking, the faces of Qiao Zhongbong and his wife changed. The Mu family of Shinzhou has gone too far. Mu Jingrui hurriedly cupped his hands at Qiao Zhongbong and his wife. Please don't be angry. Jojo has some misunderstandings about our Mu family right now. I hope that you can help persuade her. Boom. A wooden vine as thick as the mouth of a bull fiercely smashed next to Old Bai's feet. Old Bai was startled. He looked up and saw a figure gliding across the sky, suddenly arriving in front of him. The spirit-binding rope drilled out from under his sleeves and climbed up Old Bai's hands, swiftly tying them around his tanned wrists. Arbor tugged on the rope from the other end, and Old Bai's wrists were suddenly firmly bound by the spirit-binding rope. He hurriedly clapped his hands, trying to break free from the rope. Chapter 1350. However, the spirit-binding rope could even bind that guy Duan Yu, let alone Old Bai, who was merely a great spiritual cultivator. Old Bai was caught by the spirit-binding rope, and he angrily kicked his leg toward Arbor. Arbor grabbed the rope and also extended a leg, colliding with the old fellow's leg with a bang. Fuck! Even his bones hurt from the collision. Xiao Mu started to regret it again. If she had not listened to the deceitful tree and consumed the bone-forging pill, perhaps her body's toughness would have greatly increased, and it would not have been so strenuous when fighting Old Bai. Bang! Bang bang! The two people swept their legs several times in succession. After a dozen or so kicks, our dear Xiao Mu abruptly retracted her small leg and grimaced in pain as she rubbed her bruised leg. Just as she angrily shook her leg and bent down to rub her aching leg, she suddenly felt a warm, gentle feeling. Suddenly, he could clearly feel a trace of warm air flowing under his skin. Wherever it passed, the pain of his broken bones seemed to ease a lot. She couldn't help but be taken aback. While she was in a daze, Old Bai, whose hands were bound, had already leaped in front of her. His hands clenched into large fists and smashed toward her head. If this hit landed, Arbor would definitely vomit blood and collapse to the ground. This old fellow truly acted quickly and viciously. Mu Jingrui quickly flew up to stop him. Old Bai, stop right there. Arbor threw out 60 defensive talismans around his body, forming a defensive talisman array. Old Bai's descending fist was blocked by Arbor's talisman array, so it didn't actually land on her head. But even so, Qiao Zhongbong and Wei Ziqin, who were watching from the side, felt very alarmed. Their hearts were about to jump out of their chests along with their daughter's every move. Before Qiao Zhongbong could shout for help, several black figures landed beside them like specters. Qiao Zhongbong took a closer look, and his heart calmed down slightly. These young men should be the secret guards that the crown prince left for his daughter. Seeing them now, Qiao Zhongbong and his wife felt a little relieved. You just used my parents to threaten me, didn't you? Arbor stared coldly at the white-haired old man in front of him, his eyes filled with an eerie chill. I'm not threatening you, the white-haired elder said coldly. I'm just reminding you out of goodwill. After all, the Mu clan of the Divine Prefecture isn't something that you commoners from the lower star fields can resist. Arbor sneered. Who are you trying to fool? If you people from the upper 3 provinces want to come to Seacone Planet, you'll have to take some unorthodox paths. It's simply impossible to teleport on a large scale. Otherwise, the Heavenly Tao will be the first to not let you off. Arbor said coldly. Damn girl, you know quite a lot. Old Bai rolled his eyes and said coldly, You even know about the heavenly Tao. Arbor snorted and suddenly flipped open his palm. Green vines spread out from one side of his palm, and water spirits sizzled out from the other side. He threw two types of spiritual energy at Old Bai at the same time. Old Bai was a little bewildered. His hands were tied, so it was inconvenient for him to fight. He could only raise his leg and sweep it forcefully in the air. The green vine in Xiao Mu's hand immediately coiled around one of Old White's legs. Abruptly exerting force, Old White's leg was forced to fall forward, and a crisp crack resounded. The gazes of everyone present became strange as they looked at Senior White. Old Bai's face flushed red. Chapter 1351. This was his pants splitting open at the back of his butt. Old Bai's face flushed bright red, and his lips trembled in anger. He stammered for a long time without saying a word, but his gaze toward Arbor became increasingly gloomy. Just as Old Bai was about to launch an attack, Xiao Mu kicked out first, landing on his left arm. Her body shot up, and she twisted the spirit binding rope to hold onto both his hands as she stepped onto Old Bai's shoulders in an instant. Old Bai helplessly raised his hands high, his face turning even more purple and black. You guys probably don't know one thing. Ever since you guys came to find me last time, as a precaution, I secretly ordered people to destroy all the hidden special passageways, or things like spatial transfer talisman matrices in the MO Kingdom capital. Wantonly destroying these passageways meant one thing. People from the middle 6 prefectures or the upper 3 provinces could no longer visit the MO Kingdom capital as they pleased. Once those special passageways were destroyed, it would be very difficult to construct another one within several years. As for the spatial talisman matrices, that was even easier to handle. She had already thought of a way to get it done once and for all. Only she and Mo Yin knew about this matter. Even Duan Yu and the others were unaware. Mu Jingrui's pupils involuntarily contracted when he heard this. Was it like that? This girl could actually be so ruthless and terrifyingly meticulous. Reportedly, the advancement passageway recognized by heavenly law opens once every 10 years. I think you guys can only return through that normal passageway. Arbor sneered. However, you shouldn't have to wait too long. At most, it should be 3 months. Of course, you guys can also take advantage of this passageway that opens once every 10 years to bring more people to our Seacombe planet. Arbor stood on that old man's shoulder and expressionlessly gazed at Mu Jingrui. His voice was bone-chilling ice from the netherworld. The prerequisite is that you can hide it from heavenly law. 10 years. Only 10 years' time. I will let all of you clearly know. There is no distinction between upper, middle, and lower. When I step onto the divine province, it will be the day you demons and monsters pay the price in blood. Mu Jingrui's pupils contracted fiercely. He didn't know what kind of feelings he was currently feeling. The young lady before him stood high above on Senior White's shoulder, and she looked at them with an icy cold gaze that was arrogant and indifferent. It caused him to have the indescribable feeling that everyone seemed to be insignificant in her eyes at this moment. He suddenly realized that perhaps it was because of his recklessness that the little girl in front of him was getting further and further away from the Mu family of the Divine Land. 10 years was enough to stir up a storm. Perhaps she didn't even need 10 years. White suddenly sneered. Ignorant brat, don't be so arrogant. 10 years. Not to mention 10 years. You won't even have 10 minutes. He had decided to kill her. This little girl was too antisocial and hard to control. This kind of girl, no matter how high her talent was, it was impossible for her family to use her. He believed that the old patriarch would definitely understand his painstaking efforts. If such a person existed, it would be a threat to the eldest miss and eldest young master. With this girl's temperament, she would definitely not be willing to be inferior to others. What a pity. A little prodigy was about to lose her life here. A person's life was so short. The path of growth was filled with thorns and loneliness. How pitiful. Her life had already reached its end. Senior White's eyes darkened as he looked up. Goodbye, little girl. You won't have it tomorrow. Chapter 1352. You Can't Kill Me. A cold glint appeared in Arbor's apathetic eyes. When Old Bai's entire body erupted with terrifying spiritual energy, sparkling and translucent snowflakes burst forth from her fingers and collided with the spiritual energy on his body. After several consecutive explosions, Mu Jingrui and the others were isolated outside. Try and see if I can kill you. Old Bai roared angrily. His hands tightened, but he still couldn't break free from the spirit-binding rope. He couldn't help but fly into a rage out of humiliation, hating the lousy rope in his hands. Huh! Old Bai roared angrily and fiercely stomped on the ground. A thin layer of spiritual armor covered his chest. Following that, the muscles all over his body bulged, and his spiritual energy surged inch by inch. Mu Jingrui was shocked and madly rushed to his side. Old Bai, stop it. I won't allow you to harm my niece. However, at this very moment, the defensive barrier around Old Bai had already frozen the surrounding air, directly creating a spiritual energy barrier in the small plaza outside the main hall. No matter how Mu Jingrui, Lightning, and the others frantically tried to destroy this spiritual energy barrier, it was to no avail. Die! The old man shook his shoulders, only to see the girl's figure floating in front of him. Her expression was grave as she covered her body with several layers of water spirit barriers. Was it useful? Old Bai couldn't help but sneer. He proudly shouted, "Today let me teach you what the true difference in strength is." In an instant, a huge wave of spiritual energy surged toward Arbor's head. Xiao Zhongbong and his wife used their feeble strength to pound the defensive barrier constructed from powerful spiritual energy. This tiny amount of strength was like an ant trying to shake a tree. It didn't budge in the slightest. Inside the defensive barrier, the huge wave of spiritual energy formed a huge transparent palm. It blotted out the sky as it slammed down toward Arbor's head. Mu Jingrui rapidly consumed the talismans in his hand, intending to break the old man's defensive barrier. Unfortunately, Old Bai's strength was on par with his, and their realms and cultivations were similar. He couldn't break through the barrier at all. Under this palm, Jojo was about to be smashed into meat paste. A fat squirrel the size of a small mountain suddenly blocked in front of Arbor. Before the white squirrel could slap it with its tail, the sky was filled with peach blossoms. They swirled and danced gently, landing on the heads of everyone present. Their clothes were stained with peach blossoms. Arbor didn't understand what was going on. He wiped the peach blossom petals on his little head and looked up at the sky. Everything was going well, so why was there a peach blossom rain out of nowhere? Could it be that the little white squirrel was playing on the peach blossom tree on Paradise Planet and brought it out when it came out? However, there was no end to the peach blossom rain. How could the white squirrel bring out so many peach blossom petals? The white squirrel Chio looked innocently at its little master. It looked up at the sky with its master, and a red suddenly appeared in its eyes. As the red dots continued to fall, the figure gradually revealed itself. Under the sky, full of peach blossoms, a person in a red robe fluttered in the wind. Holding a pink peach blossom umbrella that only covered one person, she floated down from the sky. As pink peach blossom's umbrella. Right, it was this kind of thing that made people sick of looking at it that appeared in Xiao Mu's eyes. That person turned around. His androgynous little face was so beautiful that it was almost impeccable. Bang! He pointed a finger in the distance. Old Bai, who was originally immensely pleased with himself, suddenly flushed red. Chapter 1353. How is this possible? Lao Bai watched in horror as the spiritual energy he sent out bounced back and instantly circled around him. His body also rapidly expanded in the next moment, as if Lao Bai's eyes widened in shock. Why? He couldn't say a single word. Spiritual energy crazily surged in his Dantian's mystic domain, but it was still of no use. At this moment, Lao Bai already couldn't care less about the heavenly Tao. At this moment, He had already exploded with his cultivation as a peak level, 11 great spiritual master, wanting to resist. However, it was of no use. In the end, all that was left in his eyes was peach blossoms. Bang! Lao Bai suddenly self-destructed in front of everyone, and all the energy was suppressed within the defensive barrier he had set up. Several loud tremors sounded in succession, startling everyone in the residence and causing them to run in this direction. The people outside the defensive barrier were also shocked by this sudden self-destruction. They all stared dumbfoundedly at Lao Bai's miserable appearance. Turned into scattered ashes? This was the true difference in strength. Arbor blinked and turned her head to look at the red-robed man, who was holding a pink peach blossom umbrella and standing at the side with a smile. His figure was slender and beautiful. He really had an appearance that could overturn a city with a smile. He wasn't any worse than her Mo-Lien. An illusion. It must be an illusion. How could there be someone in this world who could kill a great spiritual master with just a finger? She couldn't do it to such an outrageous extent. Xiaomu secretly twisted her small arm lightly. Immediately, she didn't feel any pain. She became more and more convinced that everything in front of her was an illusion. Da-da-da. She walked out of the defensive barrier. The man with the pink peach blossom umbrella followed her gaze and blinked. Why did he feel like he was being ignored? That old ghost was already dead, and the defensive barrier he had set up also disappeared. Xiaomu smoothly walked out of that defensive boundary, and as soon as she walked out, Wei Ziqin hugged her and bawled her eyes out. Just now, it was really too dangerous. Wei Ziqin's heart almost jumped out. She thought that she might lose her daughter forever. Arbor expressionlessly patted his mother's back to comfort her. He looked up at Mu Jingrui, who was looking at him with a complicated expression, and coldly said, "You're still not leaving?" Mu Jingrui looked at her with a complicated expression and nodded. "I'll leave now." He was too ashamed to stay here any longer. The men he had brought with him had disregarded his orders and tried to kill his little niece. He was speechless. "Jojo, I hope you'll reconsider. There's one thing that Old Bai is right about. Having a powerful clan will definitely be beneficial to your future. Do you think I need that?" Arbor glanced at him coldly. Mu Jingrui couldn't help feeling bitter. That's right, a young genius who could draw the god-inviting talisman and invite the immortal venerable. Why would he care if others supported him or not? It was not necessarily a good thing that his little niece bore a grudge against the Mu family of the Divine Land. Lao Bai was too rash in dealing with matters. "Jojo, I'll investigate the spatial talisman matrix you mentioned after I return. If I find out that it's really related to our Mu family, I'll definitely ferret that person out and hand him over to you for punishment. I hope you'll do as you say." Arbor glanced at him indifferently, not holding much hope in his heart. Chapter 1354. Because she was very clear that this person had concealed himself deeply from her previous life to this one. Perhaps Mu Jingrui alone could not deal with him. Arbor shook her head and turned to look at her sobbing mother, using a handkerchief to wipe her tears. "Mom," she said softly, "when I was in Jiaozhong base, I was chased by a group of people of unknown origins. At that time, I was besieged by more than a dozen people, and the situation was even more dangerous than it is now. I suspect that this pursuit has something to do with my birth." Arbor said mildly, looking at her mother with a sincere gaze. "Mom, many times, it's not that the enemy will let us off if we take a step back. Mom, they don't want me to live well. They don't want me to appear in the divine mainland one day. They want my life. They want me to suffer for the rest of my life by every means possible. Mother, they're controlling me like a marionette, trying to ruin my life." Arbor hugged her mother's shoulders and stared straight at her. "I can't retreat, you know? I have nowhere to retreat. I can only continue to survive by continuously fighting and advancing. Mom, don't be sad, because I'm already very clear that this is my life. From the moment I was born, this identity of the Mu family's daughter has not brought me any glory or brilliance, but indelible pain and disaster. Mom, even so, you still want to maintain your silence and not tell me anything?" Everyone stared at her in a daze. especially second Uncle Xiao, Brother Xiao Hu, Shaolin and the others. They were baffled and stared blankly at the girl in front of them. Jojo? What was Jojo talking about? What identity of the Mu family's daughter? Why was it that when her words were separated, they could understand each word, but when they were put together, they could not understand anything? Wei Ziqin hugged her and cried bitterly, her expression carrying a trace of remorse. She did not know that things would be so serious and that her daughter would have such a difficult life. Child, why come with me? Come with me. Wei Ziqin suddenly stood up, pulled her little hand, and dragged her to the rear courtyard. Father, what's going on? Jolin looked at his father, Qiao Zhongbong, in shock. Qiao Zhongbong sighed. Come with me to the hall. It's a long story. Everyone ran away, leaving behind only the flowers on the ground, as well as... It was a slender man holding a pink peach blossom umbrella. Has this venerable one been completely ignored by everyone? A certain person muttered to himself before his figure disappeared from the courtyard. It was as if he didn't exist in everyone's eyes. When had his sense of existence become so weak? Arbor silently followed his mother all the way to the back of the ancestral hall. Pushing open the heavy door of the ancestral hall, Wei Ziqin took her little hand and walked into the main entrance of the ancestral hall. They walked around to a small room in the back hall. Xiao Mu saw that there was only a lone memorial tablet erected there, and there was even a piece of cloth covering it. Kneel down, Jojo, Wei Ziqin said sternly. Arbor knelt down as instructed, silently kneeling in front of the memorial tablet. For a long time, mother and daughter did not speak. Actually, you already have the answer in your heart, don't you, child? Wei Ziqin sighed deeply. You're such a smart child. You've already guessed it, haven't you? Arbor did not speak, only staring straight at the cloth, as if trying to see through it to the name inside. Chapter 1355. Wei Ziqin lifted her hand to take down the cloth. Arbor's gaze then focused on the 3 large characters carved on the memorial tablet. Long Chuyin. It really was Long Chuyin. Arbor only felt a slight sourness in her little nose, and her eyes were filled with indescribable sadness. However, her gaze remained cold and still as she stared at the memorial tablet, not moving at all for a long time. She finally understood why her chest swelled uncomfortably and was filled with a strange sense of sorrow when she first saw the skeleton in the fiery red clothes in the land of inheritance. It turned out that it was actually the first time they met 15 years. They didn't know each other when they met. She was the teacher who imparted the elixir inheritance to her, as well as her biological mother. Miss told me that the injuries in her body originally weren't enough to support giving birth to you. Wei Ziqin said in a choked voice. She used a very extreme method to give birth to you, so her body was even weaker than before. And at this time, her enemies came looking for her again. She had no choice but to entrust you to me. At that time, your father and I weren't married yet. Wei Ziqin thought of the past, only feeling that it was still vivid in her mind, but things had already changed. Your father didn't despise us mother and daughter. We met by chance in town. Wei Ziqin laughed bitterly. After that, your father brought us mother and daughter back to Quoto village. Your grandmother always had a thorn in her heart, feeling that it was mother who did something wrong to your father, and that's why she had you. Jojo, your biological mother called you that back then. So from the beginning, Dad and Mom had always called her Jojo. At first, she thought that because she was the eldest, Dad and Mom just called Jojo out of habit. Only now did she know that it was because Dad and Mom knew that she was called Mu Qiao from beginning to end. Her nickname was indeed Jojo. Arbor knelt there without moving an inch. When Wei Ziqin saw this, her heart clenched. She reached out and stuffed half of the jade pendant with a red string into her daughter's hand. She hugged her daughter and cried, "Take it, okay? Jojo, this is what your birth mother left behind. You can blame anyone but her." Mother recognized the ring on your finger. Wei Ziqin looked up at the expressionless Arbor and said, "It's really the nature of mother and daughter. No matter how far apart they were, no matter how long they were separated, You guys just reunited without any reason, didn't you? So, when you heard that I knew how to refine pills, you were so happy that you opened the ancestral hall, saying that you're going to pay respects to the ancestors. Actually, you're just going to tell her that I've also become an alchemist. In the future, I will also be like her and become an alchemy grandmaster. Wei Ziqing nodded with tears in her eyes. Mother, do you know who her enemy is? Who has been trying to take her life? Wei Ziqing shook her head. Mother isn't lying to you. Mother really doesn't know. I swore to young miss that I would never mention her name to you in this life. She hoped that you could be a normal person peacefully. However, how could her bloodline be normal when she was born? She didn't want you to go down a dead end and focus on revenge. Wei Ziqing hugged the girl and reached out to brush a strand of hair on her cheek behind her head. Mother only knew. When young miss gave birth to you, she told me that she didn't have long to live. But Mother really didn't know that she would actually set up an inheritance mystic realm and let herself die alone in the mystic realm. Wei Ziqing's voice choked with sobs. Chapter 1356. Mom, didn't I tell you? Her inheritance mystic realm is set up on the mountain behind our Quoto village. Wei Ziqing was startled. She pursed her lips and shook her head. She probably thought that even if she died, she would still want to be a little closer to you. Child, you are a concern that she can't abandon. Wei Ziqing held her daughter's hand and tightly held that half-jade pendant in her palm. Believe, Mom, as long as there is a sliver of hope, your biological mother wouldn't hand you over to me, Wei Ziqing said softly as she stroked her daughter's head. So, don't hate her, okay? I don't hate her, Arbor said indifferently. Wei Ziqing's eyes filled with tears. But you are so cold. Mom's heart aches when I see you. Mom, don't think too much. My mind is just a little confused for a moment. Arbor held her hand and said indifferently, Mom, you swore to her that you wouldn't tell me the truth. But today, you personally broke this oath. Her mother valued promises so much. In her previous life, when her family was so poor, her mother had never thought of sending her a burden away. And her father, this honest and stupidly filial man, never thought of sending her away either. Are they stupid? Aren't these two stupid? Why didn't they send her away? They should have just sent her away and left her to fend for herself. In her previous life, she was the one who dragged their family down. It was her. It was her, this jinx. What does it matter? My daughter's safety is the most important. Wei Ziqing smiled with tears in her eyes. After hearing all this, do you have any clues? Child, seeing her in a daze, Wei Ziqing reached out to shake her body. Then she cried, Child, you mustn't go down a dead end. You have to be clear about one thing. No matter what your surname is, you are Dad and Mom's child. Dad and Mom don't have much ability, but we will definitely do our best to protect you for life. Mother, I know. Arbor came back to his senses and wiped his mother's face with a handkerchief. You've always been a good mother. In my heart, you and Dad are my parents. There's no difference. Wei Ziqing burst into tears. She was both moved and emotional. Child, do you have any clues? Arbor shook his head and nodded. I suspect that the people who are targeting me are her enemies. But right now, I don't know who they are. Mother, don't worry. Your daughter isn't that weak now. She would protect the entire family, for sure. Wei Ziqing nodded. All right, Mother believes in you. Mother, I want to stay here for a while longer. Arbor's expression was getting colder and colder. Wei Ziqing nodded. Then don't stay too long. This place is cold. Xiao Mu hummed in assent as she watched her mother walk out of the ancestral hall's main entrance. Her mother's shadow on the ground disappeared from her sight. She didn't know how long she had been sitting alone in the ancestral hall. It seemed to have been so long that her breathing was fading. Only then did she slowly raise her head. She reached out to take the memorial tablet and hugged it in her arms. It was a very cold feeling. It was as if the coldness had penetrated the deepest part of her heart. She shuddered violently. Hugging Long Chiyun's memorial tablet, she muttered to herself, long time no see. 26 years and 15 years later, she finally found out that her biological mother was Long Chiyun. Her tears fell silently. Chapter 1357. No matter how long Qian wished for her to live a peaceful life, in reality, it was impossible for her to live a peaceful life. The group of people targeting Long Chuyin would not stop attacking her. She could only fight back in order to continue living. So, I'll have to disappoint you. She would eventually return to the divine continent and seek justice for her past and present lives. Arbor composed herself and walked out of the ancestral hall, returning to her room. But when she pushed open the door, she was a bit stunned. She went to the wrong room. Sorry, I went to the wrong room. The little fellow stammered and left the room. Then, she looked around with a dumbfounded expression, then looked at the room's door. That's right, this was her boudoir. But who was that man lying on the brocade couch in front of the window that she often used to read? Who are you? Arbor kicked the door open. The little fat squirrel, sitting on the side, couldn't help but cover its furry face. Just now, it had also courted disaster by asking this devilish man, but in the end, it was kicked out of the window by him. This tea is bland and tasteless. It doesn't taste good. Bring me the wine. The man who was lying on her brocade couch did not have a proper appearance. He crossed his legs and cast a sidelong glance at her. Scram! Our dear Xiao Mu angrily roared. Where did this devilish man come from? He actually dared to barge into this darling's boudoir, and even openly lay on her soft brocade. This was simply outrageous. In the next moment, a certain person discovered that she had been flung out of the room with a flick of his sleeve. She staggered back a few steps. The little fat squirrel didn't know whether to laugh or cry on its furry face. It hurriedly jumped up and hugged one of the devilish man's arms, making a fuss. Great celestial supremacy, don't be angry, don't be angry. Master's memory isn't too good. Your memory is actually so bad at such a young age. The man muttered and glanced at the little girl who had angrily jumped in from outside the door. Who the hell are you? This guy was too powerful. She didn't see him move, but she was flung out of the room by him. The most ridiculous thing was that, combined with her scram just now, the result was the one who scrammed out of the room was actually herself. Really, this darling was so angry. Master, master, master. The little fat squirrel hurriedly jumped onto her shoulder and nuzzled her neck, whispering, Him, Lord Immortal. I don't know him. Arbor was baffled. A certain venerable immortal glanced at her with watery eyes. Suddenly, Chunhua smiled brilliantly. Do you want this venerable to help you remember? Arbor shivered inexplicably and quickly shook his head. No need. Then, do you remember who I am now? Arbor tilted his head and thought for 3 seconds. A certain venerable immortal suddenly flew over from the brocade couch and instantly arrived in front of her. His handsome face darkened as he roared. Do you need to consider for so long? You're the guy who used a finger to make that old geezer from the Mu family in the courtyard self-destruct on the spot. Arbor's brain circuit suddenly came back, and she hurriedly shouted out. The fat squirrel clapped his little furry paws in surprise. Master, you're awesome. I've been with you for so long, but this is the first time I've heard you say such a long sentence. There was no pause in between, and he didn't even pant. Arbor, remove the word guy. The venerable immortal looked at her with a smile and said, Little girl, you have the aura of the mystic domain on you, so you're definitely not an ordinary person. Chapter 1358. Arbor's entire body jolted, and she immediately looked at him warily. Even Mo Lien hadn't been able to tell that she had a mystic domain in her body. Who was this person to actually be able to see through the paradise planet on her body? Why are you glaring at this sovereign like that? So rude. He muttered, and suddenly reached out to grab her small hand. Hurry up and take it out. You must have wine on you. Why you? Where did you come from? You actually don't know where I came from? The sovereign immortal glared at her angrily, and a slender finger nearly tapped the tip of her small nose. He said angrily, Why you? You little muddle-headed bug. Our dear Xiao Mu was instantly very angry. Growing up, people had always praised her for being smart, wise, and fair. Who would point at her small nose and call her a muddle-headed bug? This was simply preposterous. Cough. The little Treant really couldn't stand it anymore. He ran out of Paradise Planet and kicked Chio, who was occupying her shoulder, down. He said softly, "Master, let me tell you. This is the sovereign immortal that you used the deity inviting talisman to invite over." What? Arbor was stunned. Didn't you say that those sovereigns were all busy? The little Treant hurriedly covered his eyes with 2 tree branches. How could he have known that the deity inviting talisman that Master used would only appear after such a long time? Arbor was even more speechless. She thought that her deity inviting talisman had been wasted. How could she connect this person in front of her with her deity inviting talisman for no reason? Arbor sized up this young man, and the other party's charming and enchanting eyes were also staring at her with a smile that wasn't a smile. His thin lips were moist and pink, and a lock of curly hair fell on his cheeks. His slender body leaned lazily against the door, leaning against it without any sense of propriety. She recalled that this person had landed in the courtyard with fragrant peach blossoms all over his body, and his red clothes were very eye-catching. And at this moment, he had actually changed into a set of pink clothes. No, he had also changed his hairstyle. Just now, his hair was not tied up, but now he had changed it into long, curly hair. Could it be that every time he changed his clothes, he had to match it with a unique hairstyle? Oh my God, he's even more diligent in changing clothes than this girl. A thought flashed through Arbor's mind. Were you really invited by my God-inviting talisman? Are you the Peach Blossom Immortal Venerable? At least you know your stuff. The man nodded and looked at her as if she was a promising child. Child, what's your name? Arbor. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal glanced at her and suddenly laughed. Aren't you from a talisman aristocratic family? You're trying to trick me, right? I clearly heard them saying that your surname is Moo. Arbor's little face immediately turned gloomy. He immediately turned around and left. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal was stunned and subconsciously blocked her. TSK. Such a temper at such a young age. Okay. I'll call you Arbor, okay? How about I tell you my name, and you give me good wine? Aren't you called Peach Blossom? You're called Peach Blossom. The Venerable Peach Blossom Immortal looked at her speechlessly. Why did he feel that if he continued to argue with this child, he would be angered to death? As the 2 of them talked by the window, Lightning, who was squatting on the tree, hurriedly took out a communication jade talisman from his pocket and scribbled a few lines of words. Without another word, he reported to the Crown Prince. Your Highness, bad news. There's another man in the Crown Princess's room. You've been cheated on again. Chapter 1359. Those 2 members of the Fan Clan who attacked the Crown Princess probably left our Seacombe planet through a special array. Huifeng was currently reporting the Fan Clan situation in the study. According to the Crown Princess's explanation, that kind of spatial talisman array consumes talisman energy each time it's used. The further the distance, the greater the talisman energy consumption. If talisman energy can't be replenished in time, it can't be used multiple times. Huifeng coughed lightly and said, in this subordinate's opinion, those 2 members of the Fan Clan probably planned their escape beforehand. They simply didn't think of turning back. Emolien closed the booklet in her hand and sneered. They got off easy. Your Highness, how should we deal with the members of the Fan Clan? The Fan Clan produced 2 degenerates who rebelled and plotted against the Crown Princess. It's family head Fan's fault for not properly disciplining them. As the head of the clan, he naturally has to bear the main responsibility. Go, behead family head Fan in public. As for the rest of the Fan Clan, banish them all from the capital and never let them return. Emolien narrowed her eyes as she coldly ordered. He wanted to let all the forces in the entire Mo Kingdom capital know not to provoke his little Crown Princess again. That Huifeng's mouth twitched, and he nodded and cupped his hands. Yes, this subordinate will handle it right away. Emolien nodded, her expression faintly weary. These trivial matters were messy and very annoying to deal with. Suddenly, she felt the jade messenger talisman in her pocket heat up slightly, so Emolien took it out. Upon seeing it, she immediately jumped up from her stool. Feng had just left the room and didn't have time to instruct who to do what when he turned around, only to see His Highness the Crown Prince rushing outside in a flurry. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. Feng, what was going on? Just now, the Crown Prince was still sitting calmly at his desk, dealing with matters. Why did he run off in such a hurry before 3 minutes had even passed? On the other side, Arbor took out a jar of bamboo leaf brew from Paradise Planet and placed it in front of the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal. He looked at him curiously and asked, "How long can you exist?" "Little girl, you speak as if I'm a summoned creature. How long do you think I'll exist? Isn't this the talisman you drew?" The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal flicked her forehead in annoyance and took the bamboo leaf brew from her. Opening the seal, a rich wine aroma wafted out. Not bad, not bad, not bad at all. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal poured himself a cup of wine and narrowed his eyes. Oh my God, it had been a long time since he had drunk such good wine. Sure enough, living in the mortal world was great. He could eat and drink as he pleased. How long had it been since he had tasted such a feeling that, unlike that damn place where they came and went, there was only a vast expanse of white mist. Everyone was drinking the wind and admiring the moon, cultivating without eating. They were like idiots every day. Arbor smelled the aroma of the wine and looked a little puzzled. She remembered that when second uncle gave this batch of bamboo leaf brew to her back then, they had taken 3 to 4 jars to drink. At that time, there hadn't been such a rich wine aroma. Could it be that the rich mystic energy in the mystic domain had imperceptibly transformed it? Good wine. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal poured himself another cup. Arbor couldn't help but feel curious when she saw him drinking so happily. Was it really that good? She took a cup and was about to reach for the wine jar when that fellow snatched it away. Shoo, shoo, shoo. What's a child drinking wine for? He flung his sleeves at her in disdain. You're the child. Chapter 1360. Arbor tugged at his sleeve and reached out to snatch the wine in his hand. Amused, the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal raised his hand and tried to pinch her expressionless face. Children should act like children. Why are you pulling a long face all day? I'm an adult. With a taut face, Arbor turned around and dodged his fingers. She said angrily, "Your family is full of children." TSK. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal raised his head and gulped down the wine in one gulp, emptying the contents of the jug. Arbor glared at him coldly. "Give me 2 more pots." "No more. Who are you trying to fool?" The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal flashed to her side and spread out his slender, jade-white fingers, shaking them in front of her. "We agreed earlier that I'll tell you my name and you'll give me wine." "Who agreed with you?" Arbor twisted around and aimed the back of her head at him. "Listen carefully. This venerable one's name is Rotten Peach Blossom. You're the Rotten Peach Blossom." The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal raised his hand, and peach blossom petals sprouted from his slender wrists as if there was no end to them. "This is merely a form that I created by activating the wood spirit." A certain venerable immortal glanced at her irritably. "You don't know? Just like your water spirit that can melt ice and snow, this wood spirit's form is even more colorful and ever-changing. All the plants in the world can take on the form of wood." "How can I not know?" Arbor stubbornly maintained her stoic face and indifferently swept her gaze over his face. With a flip of her hand, the wood spirit turned into a small yellow flower and landed on her palm. "Isn't it just like this?" The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal. Why was this child so unadorable? What attack power can a small flower like you have? Your peach blossom has attack power? Nah. My cultivation has already reached the stage where even a few small peach blossom petals can hurt people. You're different with your current cultivation as a level 14 little mystic cultivator. Just now, you had to do that in order to injure the great spirit master. As he spoke, the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal's hand quickly condensed a wave of wood spiritual energy. In an instant, it transformed into a man-eating flower with its mouth wide open. The flower's stamen spat out a thick wave of spiritual energy, which shot towards the wall of the room like a sharp sword. Hey, don't destroy my room. The spiritual energy was about to hit the wall, but in the blink of an eye, it turned into nothingness and slowly dissipated. Arbor's eyes widened in surprise. He turned to look at him. You're pretty good. Give it a try. Xiaomu nodded and took a deep breath. She then channeled her wood spiritual energy and created a man-eating flower according to what she had previously drawn. However, his man-eating flower's head was only 1/5 the size of the venerable peach blossom immortal's head. Furthermore, it couldn't spit out spiritual energy. It looked rather unsightly. Take it slow. You're smart. The venerable peach blossom immortal couldn't help but pat the child's head and nodded. Bam! In the blink of an eye, a streak of fire shot towards the venerable peach blossom immortal's hand. If he hadn't dodged quickly, he would have been burned. The venerable peach blossom immortal leaned to the side and fell on the brocade couch by the window. He looked up at the man who had jumped through the door. Who are you? Mo Yin was instantly enraged when she saw this evildoer's posture. How can I get away with 2 more chapters? _Carrot recently. Updating 10 chapters every day simply doesn't seem like something I can do. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.